It was already inconceivable that the person before him had managed to comprehend the spatial quintessence and the time quintessence. But who could have thought that he would have successfully grasped the soul quintessence as well? In the past tens of thousands of years, nearly no one in the three premier clans had managed to comprehend any of these three quintessences. Even ancient sages would view comprehending any one of these quintessences as their greatest pride, regarding it as their bragging rights toward their fellow ancient sages. But somehow, a single person had actually able to grasp all three of them. How in the world was this possible? Just what kind of monster was he? Gotcha! In Jiang Fengyou's moment of shock, the thief had already broken through the windows of the treasure vault, ready to escape at any moment. Do you think that I'll allow you to escape after emptying our Jiang clan's treasure vault? You are really taking me too lightly. With a face reddened with rage, Jiang Fengyou pushed his foot forcefully against the ground and leaped out of the window as well. Raising his right hand, he swiped forward ferociously. Hung Long! A powerful surge of Jinqi burst forth with astounding speed, forming an energy wall which sealed all possible escape routes. At the same time, Jiang Fengyou concentrated his soul energy into his hand to forge a sharp sword and slashed it down on the thief forcefully. Pung! Through the sheer congregation of soul energy, Jiang Fengyou's sword overcame the limitations of space and time to sever the thief's neck. Wang! However, as the sword of soul energy came into contact with the thief's neck, a faint ripple of luminescence flowed out from the thief's body. It easily deflected the sword, allowing the thief to escape unharmed from this offense. Barrier of soul ripple? You are a soul oracle? Jiang Fengyou's heart jolted once more as he nearly plummeted from the sky. The shock that he had received that day was far more than what he had encountered in his entire life. Barrier of soul ripple was a battle technique unique to the soul oracles. By wrapping one's body with flowing soul energy, one would be able to deflect most soul offenses. It was a technique which only the most authentic soul oracles were able to pull off. Even Jiang Fengyou wasn't capable enough to execute it. On top of comprehending the time, spatial, and soul quintessences, the thief was actually a soul oracle too? Just when in the world did such a formidable expert appear on the continent? However, Jiang Fengyou knew that this was not the time for him to remain stunned in shock. With a swift flick of his wrist, a triangular flag materialized on top of his palm and rose into the air. Great Sage Artifact, Dark Soul Flag. This was an artifact that had been forged by an ancient sage of the Jiang clan. It had been 100 years since Jiang Fengyou gained possession of the flag, and he had been nourishing it with his soul energy every single day. Furthermore, he had not used it since the major fight 80 years ago. In other words, there was 80 years worth of soul energy stored within the Dark Soul Flag. With the activation of the Dark Soul Flag, a profuse amount of soul energy gushed frenziedly into the surroundings, preventing anyone within its sphere of dominion from escaping. A sinister aura drifted across the air, and it felt as if the temperature around the Jiang clan had abruptly plummeted. Even though saint cultivators possessed a certain degree of resistance to heat and cold, the cold vibe seemed to seep right into their souls, leaving them shuddering uncontrollably. The soul energy emanated by the Dark Soul Flag held malevolent intent. Those whose cultivation was weaker could end up turning into retards under the hostile assault of the flag. Even those who were stronger would find themselves lightheaded, inhibiting their reaction speed. This would create an opening for others to exploit. Many years ago, Yang Shi had a friendly duel with Jiang Fengyou. He had been caught off guard by the prowess of the Dark Soul Flag and nearly suffered a huge setback. Before the prowess of the Dark Soul Flag, the body of the thief was forcefully halted on the spot. As if an ant cast within a block of ice, he was unable to escape no matter how desperately he struggled. Seeing that he had managed to seal the movement of the thief, Jiang Fengyou heaved a sigh of relief. You might be a true soul oracle, but you are simply too weak at the moment. You are no match for the prowess of the Dark Soul Flag. Just as he was about to apprehend the thief to see the face of the culprit, he suddenly felt the flag in the air trembling non-stop. To his astonishment, it felt like the Dark Soul Flag was running out of control. The 80 years worth of soul energy accumulated within the Dark Soul Flag suddenly surged into the seemingly trapped thief beneath it. Before long, a huge whirlpool had already formed between them. He is absorbing the soul energy in the Dark Soul flag? This is bad. Jiang Fengyo's face turned ghastly pale, and he nearly blacked out. The Dark Soul flag is one of the strongest artifacts in the Jiang clan. Yet, not only are you unfazed by its attack, you are even absorbing soul energy from it. You monster! Show your true form. With a livid expression, Jiang Fengyu maneuvered the Dark Soul flag to pierce into the body of the thief. You bastard! There's no way I'll let you do that. Die! The Dark Soul flag was not just capable of soul offense, it wielded formidable physical prowess as well. Under its full might, even a great sage 2 Dan Orit body realm cultivator would be completely destroyed. Hula! The Dark Soul flag pierced right toward the thief with astounding speed. Jiang Fengyu thought that he would finally be able to subdue the thief with this move, but to his bewilderment, the thief raised his hand and stroked the flag lightly, following which, the Dark Soul flag suddenly twisted and twirled delightfully around the thief, and a moan of delight echoed from its body. It was almost as if it had just been reunited with its long-lost father. Pooh! Jiang Fengyo's face paled, and he spurted a mouthful of blood. To his horror, he could feel his mental connection with the Dark Soul flag being decisively severed. Why you tamed my Dark Soul flag. Jiang Fengyu was on the verge of bursting into tears. It is one thing for you to be able to steal my soul energy within the Dark Soul flag, but to be able to tame it in the blink of an eye as well. What in the world is happening? Who am I? Where am I? Jiang Fengyu had been traumatized so badly that he was starting to doubt the reason behind his existence. That was an artifact that he had spent over 100 years nourishing. Yet, it had actually betrayed him for a new master without any second thoughts. It was as if all of the tender love that he had showered upon it had gone to naught. This betrayal came like a dagger plunged into the depths of his heart. Ho! After taming the Dark Soul flag, the thief quickly stowed it into his storage ring before continuing his escape. Is that the thief who has stolen from our treasure vault? Where do you think you're going? If I allow you to escape today, I shall cast away my Jiang surname. The clashes between Jiang Fengyu and the thief had caused a huge commotion and alarmed the members of the Jiang clan. Dozens of elders from the Jiang clan flew out and encircled the area, sealing all escape routes of the thief. Seeing that reinforcements had arrived, Jiang Fengyu heaved a sigh of relief. With a wrathful look on his face, he whipped out a jade token and tossed it into the air. Hong Long! As soon as the jade token appeared, a formation shrouding the entire Jiang clan suddenly whirred into action, and an immense amount of energy swiftly gathered in the air. The guardian formation of the Jiang clan had just been activated. Narrowing his eyes, Jiang Fengyu pointed his finger at the jade token and commanded, "Seal!" Wang! Amid blinding radiance, energy swiftly gathered in the area. This was not any manipulation of space or soul art. Rather, it was the true accumulation of raw, unrefined energy. There was no weakness to exploit in this massive accumulation of energy. Once trapped within this raw energy, there would be nowhere for the thief to escape to. Seemingly noticing the frightening prowess of the accumulation of energy, the thief cowered backward fearfully, even stumbling over nothing in the midst of doing so. Kacha! But all of a sudden, the accumulation of raw energy suddenly exploded. A powerful shockwave swept across the area before everything vanished completely. The formation was halted. Jiang Fengyu was startled. At that moment, he felt as if 10,000 divine beasts were stampeding through his mind. Somehow, the thief seemed to wield some mysterious ability to overcome everything that he threw at the other party. Bro, is there anything in this world that you can't do? Unfortunately, that was not the end of it. Before Jiang Fengyu could even recover from his shock, the thief beckoned with his hand, and the jade token floating in the air swiftly flew over. Who? The jade token landed on the thief's hand. With a slight stroke, an excited hum sounded from the jade token. It had been tamed as well. Pooh! Another mouthful of fresh blood spurted from Jiang Fengyu's mouth, as he saw the world before him turning dark. He did not know how much trauma his old body could take before breaking down. Can you please stop stealing my possessions? Taming the Dark Soul flag, and my clan head token. Those are mine, not yours. How in the world did you even manage to tame them? Looking at it now, it seems like I'm the outsider instead. Seeing the bad condition that her father was in, Jiang Feifei quickly rushed forward anxiously. Father! However, Jiang Fangyu quickly stopped her with a bellow. Don't come over. Be careful and don't get tamed by that fellow. Given how the thief had managed to tame the Dark Soul flag, clan head token, and even the Guardian formation, he felt like the other party would tame his daughter if she rushed over. In fact, he was thinking that the other party would be able to tame even him if he were to rush over. Jiang Feifei. Zhang Xian. Knowing that it would be dangerous to leave the situation be, Jiang Fangyu swiftly turned to the dozens of elders surrounding them and instructed, Elders, heed my orders. Take down that thief. Hong Long. The dozens of elders charged forward simultaneously, driving their Zhenqi and soul energy in unison to launch a devastating attack toward the thief at the center. Their prowess swiftly converged together like a domineering dragon, tearing countless dimension rifts around the area. This isn't good. Trapped at the very center, Zhang Xian's face turned livid. He had thought that as long as he could flee from the encirclement of the Jiang clan, he would be able to buy enough time to teleport away, using the Dragonbone Divine Spear. He did not think that these elders would suddenly make a decisive move on him simultaneously. Due to violent energies permeating the surroundings, the space around the Jiang clan had become incredibly unstable. If he forced a teleportation right now, there was a chance that he would fall into spatial turbulence, thus plunging him in more danger than he was in now. In other words, he could not rely on his spatial arts to get him out of there. What the heck was this? Had he known earlier, he would not have been so eager to take the Seal of Souls. Perhaps he might even have been out of the Jiang clan by now. Boom! However, it was clear that the elders around him would not give him the time to lament on his lapse in judgment. Their might was swiftly pushing closer with unstoppable momentum. Judging from the scale of the attack, even the sempiternal realm Yang Shi would have trouble coping with this. Knowing that he would be reduced to a heap of meat if he confronted the combined prowess of the elders with his current strength, Zhang Xian raised his palm and bellowed, Hold them off! Who? The clan head token of the Jiang clan, which he had tamed just moments ago, floated up from his palm. Under the command of the token, the Guardian formation swiftly formed a transparent barrier around him. Boom boom boom. The attacks of the elders fell on the barrier, causing devastating energy to ripple all over it. Fortunately, even their combined strength was unable to breach the barrier. It worked. Zhang Xian stared at the scene before him in trepidation, before heaving a sigh of relief. He had recalled his experiences with the Guardian formations of the Zhang clan and Luo clan, so he had quickly whipped out the Jiang clan's clan head token in a bid to control their Guardian formation. It was truly fortunate that everything had worked out according to plan. The clan head token was the key to controlling the Guardian formation. Taming it would mean that he had all of the formations of the Jiang clan at his disposal. In other words, the greatest trump card of the Jiang clan, that instilled fear in its enemies, had already become his safety amulet. Why you? Jiang Fangyu knew that the thief had tamed the clan head token, but he did not think that the other party would successfully manipulate their formations on the first try. In fact, the reason he had ordered the elders take down the thief swiftly was so as to retrieve the clan head token before the thief could figure out how to use it. Yet at that moment, he felt as if he was going insane. It was not that he had never seen his fair share of experts before. In fact, the scholarly young man who had paid him a visit earlier likely wielded strength that surpassed even Yang Shi. But it did not seem like the scholarly young man would be capable of pulling this off either. Continue the attack. Jiang Fangyu bellowed. Hearing the commands of the clan head, the elders persisted with their attacks. Knowing that he was protected by the Guardian formation, Zhang Xian was no longer flustered anymore. Hold it right there. With a light chuckle, he tapped his finger on the space before him. Voila! An overwhelming outburst of spiritual energy exploded into the surroundings, sealing the movements of the elders in the area. They could neither attack nor escape. Taken aback by the happenings, the elders glanced at one another in confusion. Unable to take it any longer, One of the elders bellowed, "Clan head, what's going on? Why is the clan head token in his hand? Why is he able to control our guardian formation? Who in the world is that fellow?" Questions flooded out from the bewildered elders. "What's going on? Who is he?" Jiang Fangyu clutched his hair frenziedly. "That's something I would like to know as well. I darn well want to know who he is, and what in the world is happening, too." Knowing that the urgent matter at hand was to apprehend the thief, Jiang Fangyu growled coldly. "That scoundrel snuck into our treasure vault and emptied out all of our possessions." However, before he could finish his words, the thief shouted out as well, "Elders, heed my words. That man is an otherworldly demon emperor. He has disguised himself as me and stolen all of the treasures of our Jiang clan. You mustn't let him get away." That voice echoed resoundingly in the air, piercing through the heavens. Taken aback by those words, Jiang Fangyu quickly turned his gaze toward the thief, standing at the very center. The other party had already given up on escaping, and he slowly turned his body over to reveal a face identical to his. The similarity did not just stop at appearances. The other party's posture, demeanor, voice, and even soul aura were completely indistinguishable from his. It was almost as if he was looking into a mirror. Jiang Fangyu's body stiffened, taken aback by what he was seeing. He had seen others disguising themselves before, and he had done it quite often in the past too. However, no matter how a cultivator disguised themselves, the most they could do was alter their appearance and demeanor. It was completely unthinkable for a cultivator to disguise their soul aura and make it completely identical to the person that they was impersonating. The elders were equally stunned by what they were seeing. All of a sudden, they found two clan heads standing before them, and they were speaking completely opposing words. Who should they believe? Seeing that the elders had started to waver, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. The clan head token only obeys the commands of the clan head. As elders of the Jiang clan, surely you can't be oblivious to this fact? With a wave of his hand, the clan head token released a magnificent glow, following which, the elders felt the energy binding their body vanishing into thin air, granting them control over their bodies again. The clan head token can only be tamed by the clan head. That person over there must be the real clan head. How can a person who can control our guardian formation possibly be a fake? The ability to control the guardian formation was a distinctive ability of the clan head. With such persuasive evidence before them, it did not take long for the elders to be convinced by Zhang Xian's words. One by one, they directed hostile gazes toward the real Jiang Fangyu. Jiang Fangyu did not expect the thief to turn the tables on him like that. He could still tolerate the thief possessing the time, spatial, and soul quintessences, and he could accept the fact that the other party possessed the abilities of a soul oracle. But to disguise as him and impersonate the clan head, even convincing all of the Jiang clan's elders to turn against him, unforgivable. Everyone, don't believe his words. I am the real Jiang Fangyu. Earlier, I used the guardian formation to attack him. He's the one who stole the clan head token. Jiang Fangyu quickly explained himself in the hope of salvaging the situation. Audacious. Do you think that the clan head token can be tamed by just anyone? Even if it was stolen and tamed by another person, do you think that our Jiang clan's guardian formation is that easy to control? Zhang Xian harumphed coldly. You should at least try to come up with something more convincing than that. After berating Jiang Fangyu, he turned his gaze to the elders around him and asked, Isn't that right, elders? Our Jiang clan's guardian formation has been refined and reinforced by the hands of countless predecessors, to the point that it has become a unique entity in itself. Without inheriting the heritage of our Jiang clan, not even the head of the Formation Master Guild headquarters would be able to control our guardian formation. Indeed. Given how smoothly he was able to manipulate the guardian formation with the clan head token, there's no doubt that he's the real clan head. I heard that the otherworldly demon emperors are able to disguise themselves as humans, such that even 9-star master teachers would find it difficult to discern the differences. Could the fake clan head really be a disguised otherworldly demon emperor? I'm not too sure. To be honest, I'm still rather confused by the situation. The crowd fell into deep thought. Putting aside the impossibility of taming the clan head token within such a short period of time, even if the enemy had succeeded in doing so, there was no way he could control the massive and intricate Guardian formation so quickly, right? Without many years of effort, it would be impossible to achieve such a refined level of control over the formation. Who are you? Are you an otherworldly demon? One of the elders bellowed at Jiang Fangyu. Otherworldly demon your head. I am Jiang Fangyu. Jiang Fangping. Don't tell me that you can't even recognize me? I have known you ever since we were 7. When you were 8 years old, you were unable to master the heart turmoil art, and looked to me for some guidance. Out of gratitude for my help, you gave me a jade crimson fruit as compensation. However, I didn't know that those with low cultivation mustn't consume the jade crimson fruit, and I nearly died from my energy running amok. Surely you should still remember this matter, right? Jiang Fangyu bellowed furiously. To be honest, the thief had left Jiang Fangyu feeling so traumatized that he was starting to feel that he would never feel well again. But putting that aside, considering that their appearances, demeanor, and even soul aura were identical to one another, it was pointless to be tussling over who was real and who was fake. The best way for him to prove that he was the real Jiang Fangyu was through memories. He had grown up in the Jiang clan since a very young age, so he was extremely familiar with all of the elders there. No matter how good the other party's disguise was, he could not possibly know about the little things that had happened between them. Thus, he unhesitatingly revealed one of his personal secrets to verify his identity. Those words left Elder Fangping stunned. Doubt surfaced in the depths of his eyes. Such a thing had indeed happened back when they were still very young, and the only ones who knew of this matter were the both of them. There was no way an outsider would know of this matter. In other words, if the person without the clan head token was truly an imposter, there was no way he could have known of this matter. Could the person with the clan head token really be an imposter? What's wrong? Another elder beside Jiang Fangping asked. What that person said is true, Jiang Fangping replied awkwardly. It was quite embarrassing to have the little mistakes that he had committed back when he was younger dug up before such a huge crowd. Really? Hearing those words, the elders quickly turned their gazes back to Zhang Xian with deep frowns. There was bound to be a fake between the two of them. If the person without the clan head token was real, the person with it had to be a fake. There's no need to look at me like that. Even though very few people know of this matter, it's still not too difficult to hear about it from the elders in the clan. Zhang Xian did not expect Jiang Fangyu to react so swiftly, raising the crux of the issue right away. Nevertheless, he maintained a calm smile on his face, not showing the slightest hint of fluster. He turned his gaze over to Jiang Fangping as well and said, Jiang Fangping, the cultivation technique you practice is the 3-point soul tempering art passed down by Elder Jiang Chao. However, due to several mistakes you made in your cultivation, you experience excruciating pain at your Chiman acupoint whenever a storm comes in. You find yourself unable to control your Jinqi, and sometimes it might even flow in reverse. Previously, when the dozens of elders launched a simultaneous attack against him, he had swiftly compiled a book on all of them in the Library of Heaven's Path. As such, he had a good grasp over the problems that they were suffering from. Since Jiang Fangyu wanted to play a game of who can go deeper, he did not mind playing along too. Jiang Fangping was taken aback by the revelation and nodded stiffly. Yes, that's right. But I have never told anyone about this affliction of mine before. How did you know? Zhang Xian's eyebrows twitched. Crap. I was too focused on outdoing Jiang Fangyu that I accidentally blurted too much. The Library of Heaven's Path could see through the flaws of an individual. He could still pass off as an unfathomable expert with that knowledge at his disposal. But it was not so easy when it came to impersonating an existent person in the world, especially before those who were close to him. Often, the information revealed by the Library of Heaven's Path was too much, such that even the individual themselves might not even be aware of it. Despite feeling a little suffocated on the inside, Zhang Xian put up a compassionate front and sighed in sympathy. To be honest with you, I saw through it a long time ago. I was afraid to raise your expectations only to disappoint you later. so I decided to keep quiet about the matter. All along, I have been searching for a method to resolve your affliction. Fortunately, just 2 days ago, I succeeded in finding a cure. Here, take a look at it." After saying those words, Zhang Xian tapped his finger. Hula. A cultivation technique manual was imprinted onto Jiang Fangping's mind. Having browsed through all of the books in the Jiang clan repository, he had also collected the manual of the 3-point soul tempering art into the Library of Heaven's Path as well. As such, he knew what mistakes were within the cultivation technique. By compiling it against the Heaven's Path soul art, he could easily resolve the problems that Jiang Fangping was facing without much trouble. This. Browsing through the manual that had just been imparted to him, Jiang Fangping suddenly began trembling uncontrollably, as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. With his eye of discernment, he could easily tell just how valuable the cultivation technique was to him. If he cultivated in accordance with it, not only would his affliction be resolved, he would also be able to advance his cultivation considerably too. Could it really be true that the clan head had already seen through his affliction and had been searching far and wide for a solution for him? If that was truly the case, he was really indebted to the clan head then. Congratulations, Elder Fangping. Just by looking at Jiang Fangping's expression, it was apparent that the manual that had been imparted to him was truly effective. The elders beside him quickly clasped their fists and congratulated him. Don't be fooled by that fellow. Jiang Fangyu had not thought that the thief would actually be able to pinpoint an affliction that Jiang Fangping was suffering from, and even have a solution for it. Just by thinking about the monster that he was faced, he felt his hair standing on end. I am the real Jiang Fangyu. Elder Fangcheng, we have known me for more than 100 years now and... Before Jiang Fangyu could finish his words, Zhang Xian cut in. Elder Fangcheng, we have known one another for more than 100 years now, and I believe your soul appeasement art must have reached the 3rd level, right? However, this soul art happens to be in conflict with the lucid soul formula that you practiced previously, so I advise you to switch to cultivating this for the time being. I guarantee that you will be able to advance your cultivation much faster than before. After saying those words, Zhang Xian flicked his finger and sent a sliver of his will over. Swiftly browsing through the cultivation technique manual imparted to him, Jiang Fangcheng also froze on the spot, flabbergasted by what he had received. This cultivation technique was from the same lineage as the lucid soul formula that he had cultivated previously, and it was far stronger than the soul appeasement art that he was currently cultivating. Actually, I haven't just been paying attention to Elder Fangping and Elder Fangcheng. In order to bring our Jiang clan to greater heights, I have been observing all of you closely, and I know the difficulties and problems that you are facing in your cultivation. Elder Fangzhen, if I'm not mistaken, are you cultivating the Soul Codex 4 Dan at the moment? Your cultivation isn't up to par yet, so I advise you not to do it forcefully. Otherwise, it'll bring about more harm than benefit. Do you feel your breathing often becoming ragged, and your soul and physical body seem to be losing harmony? Elder Fanglin, the deficiency in your vitality has been quite severe recently. I advise you stop taking in concubines for the time being, or else you might just have your lifespan shortened. Elder Fanghu, I know that you enjoy painting, but you mustn't allow it to hinder your cultivation. Your cultivation has been stagnant for a very long time now. Zhang Xian slowly went through the dozens of elders around him one by one. Before long, the entire area was plunged into absolute silence. His words had struck a chord with them. He had managed to pinpoint the major flaws and problems that they were facing at the moment. Could he really be their clan head? Otherwise, how could he possibly know so much about them? It was almost as if he had stripped them bare and peered into all of their secrets. Seeing how all of the elders had fallen silent, Jiang Fangyu tore out yet another clump of his hair frenziedly. Just who in the freaking world are you? Even I am unclear about the cultivation of the elders in the clan. So how in the world do you know? Furthermore, to pinpoint them precisely without any margin of error, winning all of the elders over to your side in the blink of an eye, and those elders too. What am I to do now that all of you have chosen to side with him? Has my life really been a lie? Am I really not Jiang Fangyu? Where am I? Who am I? What am I? Overwhelmed by the happenings around him, Jiang Fangyu felt a splitting migraine. He turned to Jiang Feifei, his last ray of hope. Feifei, I am your father. You are able to recognize me, right? I am the real one. Even if all of the elders could not recognize him, his daughter should at least be able to recognize him, right? Jiang Feifei did not expect herself to be faced with two fathers all of a sudden, and she could not react instantly. What was she supposed to make of this situation? A moment later, she gathered her thoughts and said, before entering the treasure vault, my father told me that I have to comprehend the soul quintessence by hook or by crook, or else I will be forced into a political marriage. I will have to marry either Zhang Xian from the Zhang clan, or Luo Tianya from the Luo clan. Only my father will know my response to his words. If you are able to quote my response to that, it will prove that you are the real one. Just from the appearance and soul aura, Jiang Feifei was unable to tell who was real and who was fake. Thus, she could only use her conversation with her father as a gauge. You said that. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Fangyu was just about to answer the question when a voice interjected him. You said, I don't want to marry that Zhang Xian. All he does is humble brag with his strength and crush the confidence of others. Furthermore, he even rejected the little princess of the Luo clan publicly, not showing any considerations for the other party's dignity at all. Jiang Feifei was stunned for a moment before nodding slowly. Indeed, that's what I said. Jiang Fangyu's body jolted once more. At that moment, he felt like the thief had slipped into his mind and taken a peek at his memories. Those were the words that his daughter had said to him earlier. So how was the other party able to recite them so accurately? With veins popping on his temples, Jiang Fangyu roared angrily. No, that's not right. You were hiding by the side earlier, weren't you? Otherwise, how could you have known the conversation between me and Feifei? He was supposed to apprehend the thief who had stolen the treasures of the Jiang clan. But things had swiftly spiraled out of control, to the extent that he was even beginning to doubt his own identity. No words could begin to describe how he was feeling. I can also say that you were snooping around earlier. Zhang Xian scoffed disdainfully. All right, stop this pointless struggling and reveal your true form. Otherwise, if all of us make a move together, the only fate that will await you is death. Hearing those words, Jiang Fangyu's body trembled in agitation. He wanted to refute the thief's words, but he was unable to find any convincing argument to back himself. The tides were truly against him now. The elders did not believe him, and he did not have the clan head token or any insignia to prove his identity. If they made a move against him, he would not stand a chance at all. In the worst-case scenario, he might even lose his life. All right, why don't I speak some words of fairness? Just as Jiang Fangyu was at a loss over what to do, a voice suddenly sounded amid the elders. Following which, an old man walked out from the crowd. Zhang Xian shot a glance over and recognized the other party to be Elder Fangyan of the Jiang clan. Even though his standing within the clan was not too high, he was a highly respected elder, whose words carried much say in the Jiang clan. Earlier, Zhang Xian had also offered him guidance. Elder Fangyan, please feel free to speak. Zhang Xian clasped his fist. Elder Fangyan nodded. With a complicated look in his eyes, he said, earlier, you offered us guidance on our cultivation. I was listening closely to it, and your words were directed right at the crux of soul cultivation. In fact, it's no exaggeration to say that there are no flaws in your words at all. I would have been truly delighted to have you as our clan head. Under your lead, it would only be a matter of time before our Jiang clan surpasses the Luo clan and the Zhang clan. A pity it is, but you aren't. I am not. Zhang Xian was taken aback. I truly am Jiang Fangyu. Elder Fangyan raised his hand to stop Zhang Xian. To be honest with you, I'm not the only one who has noticed it. All of the elders over here have become vaguely aware of it, be it consciously or subconsciously. All of us have known clan head Jiang Fangyu for at least a century now, and we are all well aware of the limits of his capabilities. To see through our flaws and resolve them impeccably, he doesn't possess the ability to do so. If he really had that in him, our Jiang clan wouldn't have been ranked at the bottom of the 3 premier clans. Elder Fangyan is right. Jiang Fangyu is a decent person, but there's really nothing outstanding about his capabilities. You are way more formidable than our clan head. Right after Elder Fangyan said his piece, a few other elders quickly voiced their agreement. Hearing about his mediocrity, Jiang Fangyu really wanted to find a place to hide. The hell? Is this how you all view me? Nothing outstanding about my capabilities? Good, I'll remember you. We'll have a good talk later on. At the very least, can't you all not put me down in front of a stranger? It was just a moment earlier that he had been desperate to prove his identity to the elders, but now that they had finally recognized him as the real clan head, instead of delight, he felt as if his heart had been pierced by countless arrows. In this moment of sorrow, he saw his daughter nodding in agreement. My father's capabilities are indeed a little lacking. There's no way he would be able to point out everything you just said. Jiang Fangyu clutched his chest tightly. I know that you are trying to convince the other elders for me, but surely you don't have to say such hurtful words. How in the world did I come to have a daughter like you? It was just a moment ago that Jiang Fangyu had felt guilty about threatening his daughter with a political marriage. However, since his daughter did not seem to have much respect for him, he suddenly felt that it might not be such a bad idea to marry her off to Zhang Xian. While Jiang Fengyu's heart was bleeding profusely, Zhang Xian could not help but be startled by the situation before him. He had thought that he would be able to win the crowd from the Jiang clan over by pointing out their flaws and resolving their issues, but it turned out to be the key that gave him away. It was indeed a difficult life for those who were too outstanding. No matter how he concealed himself, others would still see through him easily. No matter where he was, he would shine like a firefly in the midst of the night. So conspicuous, so outstanding, to be able to offer us guidance on our soul cultivation, and not make the slightest mistake in the details at all. If I'm not mistaken, you must have browsed through all of the books in our Jiang clan repository, right? Also, just a moment ago, the submission of the predecessor's phenomenon occurred. You are the one who has comprehended the soul quintessence, right? Jiang Fangyan asked. Even though he had been exposed, it did not seem like the elder of the Jiang clan was intending to corner him. Thus, he nodded and admitted to it. That's right. To be able to comprehend the soul quintessence, and have such a deep understanding of our Jiang clan. Could you possibly be a member of the Jiang clan side family? Jiang Fangyan asked doubtfully. They were aware that a top-notch genius had appeared in the Luo clan, Luo Tianya. Despite being from the side family, Luo Tianya had managed to comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing. Could the same have happened to them? Otherwise, how could the other party have such a deep understanding of them and their cultivation techniques? Hearing those words, Zhang Xian was conflicted. He had no idea how he should answer that question. Actually, regardless of whether you are from the side family or not, the fact that you have comprehended the soul quintessence means that you are qualified to become our clan head. Furthermore, you have already tamed the clan head token and taken control of our guardian formation. With eyes glowing in excitement, Jiang Fangyu took a step forward, clasped his fist and bowed down. Thus, I hope that you can become our real clan head and lead our Jiang clan through the crisis that lies ahead of us. Zhang Xian was startled by the sudden turn of events. It took him a moment before he could respond. He shook his head and said, "To be frank, I am not from the Jiang clan." It would have been one thing if he was a member of the Jiang clan side family, but he had absolutely no ties to the Jiang clan at all. You aren't from the Jiang clan? Everyone was taken aback. It's fine. It doesn't make a huge difference. The fact that you have comprehended our Jiang clan's soul quintessence means that you have an inseparable relationship with our Jiang clan. Why don't we marry Feifei to you then? This way, you'll still be qualified to be our clan head. Elder Fangyan offered. No way. Not expecting the Elder Fangyan to determine her marriage so casually, Jiang Feifei hurriedly shook her head in disapproval. Putting aside the fact that the person before her had disguised himself as her father, she did not even know who and how old the other party was. How could she possibly be willing to marry a complete stranger? Elder Fangyan, you are too courteous. I'm willing to negotiate on the matter of becoming the clan head of the Jiang clan. But as for marrying her, forget it. If the Jiang clan did not mind an outsider becoming their clan head, he could still consider the matter. Jiang Fangyu did have some ties with the scholarly young man, but as a clan whose heritage could be traced back to tens of thousands of years ago, it was unlikely that the entire clan had betrayed mankind. Most likely, it would just be a few black sheep here and there. Otherwise, the master-teacher pavilion would have noticed something by now. More importantly, if the Jiang clan had truly betrayed mankind, his position as the clan head would help him steer them back to the right path and stop them from doing anything that would harm mankind. You said forget it? What do you mean by that? Jiang Feifei exploded furiously. I haven't even said my piece yet, and you are already in such a rush to reject me. No matter what, she was a famed genius of the master-teacher continent. Furthermore, she was blessed with great beauty, so she had no lack of suitors in the sanctum of sages. Yet, the other party actually showed such a disdainful look when Elder Fang Yin proposed a political marriage with her. What did the other party mean by this? You don't need to think too deeply into it. My words mean exactly how they sounded. You are too ugly. I don't like it. After saying those words, Zhang Xian paid no heed to the exploding Jiang Feifei and turned his gaze toward Elder Fang Yin once more. I already have someone whom I fancy, so I'm afraid I'll have to turn down your offer of marriage. If you are still willing to have me as your clan head despite that, I won't turn down your offer anymore. I'll try my best to lead the Jiang clan to greatness without straying down the wrong path. Otherworldly demons had started appearing on the master-teacher continent. That was a sign that a war was just around the corner. He already had the Zhang clan and the Luo clan on his side. If he could rope in the Jiang clan as well, that would be for the best. It would also be a good opportunity to find out what was with the scholarly young man. After all, with the betrayal of the Seer Guild, the Jiang clan, and the master-teacher pavilion, he felt that there was something deeper than what he was seeing. Perhaps, it might even be a huge misunderstanding. On the other hand, hearing that Zhang Xian was unwilling to marry into the Jiang clan, the elders fell silent. They had never had an outsider as their clan head before. That won't do. We're a clan, not a sect. Our clan members will never accept an outsider as our clan head. But he's tamed the clan head token, read through all of the books in our repository, and even comprehended the soul quintessence. If we allow him to leave just like that, it could bring us greater danger in the future. The fact that he has comprehended the soul quintessence means that he has forged an inseverable relationship with our Jiang clan. He might be unwilling to marry into the Jiang clan for the time being, but as long as he stays in our Jiang clan long enough, we should be able to convince him into doing so. Feifei might not be too pretty, and her temper is abhorrent, but I believe that they can cultivate their feelings for one another over time. Furthermore, those from the 100 schools of philosophers have also come to the master-teacher continent. Based on the news we have just received from them, the otherworldly demons have been making some movement in the subterranean gallery. The manpower of the master-teacher pavilion and the combat master hall is already stretched thin. If an upheaval occurs, our Jiang clan will surely have to stand in the front lines. Will surely require a strong leader to lead us at a time like this. Furthermore, he possesses a deep understanding of soul cultivation. Even some casual pointers from him could bring us great benefits. The elders discussed vehemently among themselves. There were some who were for it. There were some who were against it. After a long, fruitless discussion, Jiang Fangyan suddenly turned his head over and asked, "If I may ask, if you aren't from the Jiang clan, who are you?" The others also halted their discussion and directed curious gazes over as well. Even Jiang Feifei had forgotten about how others were insulting her looks and personality in this moment. To be honest, I am actually. Knowing that the Jiang clan bore him no ill will, he knew that it was meaningless to maintain his disguise any longer. Thus, he reverted to his original appearance and said, "Zhang Xian. Zhang Xian, you are the young prodigy of the Zhang clan? The head of the Zhang clan?" The crowd looked at one another in utter shock. The head of the Zhang clan had actually snuck into their Jiang clan, browsed through all of their books, comprehended the soul quintessence, and even tamed their clan head token. They had thought that even if the fake clan head was not really from the Jiang clan, he would likely be some honorary elder who had resided in the Jiang clan for a very long time. How else could he know so much about the Jiang clan? Not even in their wildest dreams did they expect the other party to be a 20-year-old young man. More importantly, the other party had never been to the Jiang clan before. In other words, it was his first encounter with the heritage of the Jiang clan, and he had already grasped the soul quintessence. Why you? At the same time, Jiang Feifei's face turned as pale as a sheet of paper, and her eyes nearly popped out. She suddenly recalled how she had insulted the other party to his face. Did she just make a formidable foe for the Jiang clan? But thinking again, the other party was even more overboard. He had actually said that she was ugly. She had initially been thinking of finding an opportunity to pummel the other party and exact vengeance. But from the looks of it, she would never have the chance to do so. That fellow was simply too powerful. Even more than a dozen 9-star master teachers from the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, along with the Pavilion Master Run, were not able to face him at all. If she challenged him, it was likely that she would be blasted off in a single strike. You are Zhang Xian. That explains why you were able to utilize the time quintessence. Jiang Fangyu also found it hard to believe that the thief who had snuck into the Jiang clan's treasure vault would actually be the famed Zhang Xian. As if struck by lightning, he had a flabbergasted look on his face. He had thought that it would be some formidable expert, but who could have thought that it was a young lad whose age was even smaller than that of his own daughter? No, something is wrong here. Other than the time quintessence, I recall that you had tapped into the power of the spatial ceiling as well. Recalling the fight that he had with the young man, Jiang Fangyu suddenly narrowed his eyes in astonishment. It can't be that you have comprehended the spatial quintessence of ceiling too, can it? Indeed, I have comprehended the spatial quintessence of ceiling too. Zhang Xian nodded. The situation had been too perilous for him earlier, and he had been left with no choice but to use everything at his disposal. It was too late for him to cover up the matter anymore, so he might as well admit it frankly. If you have comprehended the spatial quintessence of ceiling, then, the Luo clan's Luo Tianya. Jiang Fangyu thought about how the young man was able to impersonate him, to the point that even the elders and his own daughter were befuddled as to who the real one was. Putting it together with the timing of Luo Tianya's appearance, Jiang Fangyu suddenly widened his eyes in utter horror. Luo Tianya is indeed one of my personas too. Zhang Xian replied with a nod. No wonder. Jiang Fangyu's mouth remained agape for a long while before it morphed into a bitter smile. He had been wondering just how coincidental it was for such a formidable genius to appear in the Luo clan shortly after they suffered a crushing humiliation. In the end, it turned out to be Zhang Xian in disguise. Jiang Feifei was also dumbstruck by what she had just heard. The young man before her was actually the clan head of 2 of the 3 premier clans. Was such a thing even possible? Putting herself against him, she realized that she could not compete with him in anything at all. The time quintessence, the spatial quintessence, and the soul quintessence. He had actually accomplished something that no one had ever done in the past tens of thousands of years. When did quintessences become so worthless that even a 20-year-old young man could learn them? In the 3 premier clans, other than the founders, there were barely any descendants who had managed to grasp the quintessences. Honestly, when put against the monster standing before her, it suddenly felt like the so-called geniuses that had been held in high regard in the 3 premier clans were actually no different from trash. Everyone. Recovering from his shock, Jiang Fangyu did a sweeping gaze across the crowd and said, I only have one thing to say. I'll leave it up to you to decide what to do after hearing my piece. Clan head, please feel free to speak your mind. Jiang Fangyan and the others quickly replied. The seal of souls in the treasure vault has vanished, Jiang Fangyu said. If I'm not mistaken, it was taken away and tamed by him. I did take the seal of souls, but I have not tamed it yet, Zhang Xian said with a reddened face. It was one thing for him to empty their treasure vault, but having it pointed out explicitly like that still made him feel rather embarrassed. From the looks of it, it seemed like he had no choice but to return those treasures to them. He took away the seal of souls? Hearing Jiang Fangyu's words, the elders widened their eyes in astonishment. Following which, Jiang Fangyu took a step forward and kneeled down. Jiang clan's Jiang Fangyu pays respect to the guild leader. The descendants of the Jiang clan pay respect to the guild leader. The other elders also quickly kneeled down as well. Guild leader? Zhang Xian frowned in confusion. Was he not supposed to be their clan head? Why were they addressing him as their guild leader now? Noticing the confused look on Zhang Xian's face, Jiang Fangyu sent a telepathic message over. Since you have browsed through the cultivation techniques of our Jiang clan, you should know that most of our soul manuals stem from the Soul Oracle's heritage. Zhang Xian nodded. This was something that he had been wondering about ever since going through the Jiang clan repository. Had the heritage of the Soul Oracles not been destroyed by the Master Teacher Pavilion? Why did the Jiang clan still have books containing the heritage of the Soul Oracles? Furthermore, why were they allowed to exist so openly on the Master Teacher continent despite the nature of their heritage? The Seal of Souls is the insignia of authority that was passed down within the Soul Oracle Guild back then. The person who wields the Seal of Souls is the chosen leader of the Soul Oracle Guild, as well the master that our Jiang clan serves. Jiang Fangyu explained. The Seal of Souls is the insignia of authority of the Soul Oracle Guild? Zhang Xian widened his eyes in shock. No wonder it was so heavy. Without comprehending the soul quintessence, he was not even able to lift it with his primordial spirit. It turned out that there was actually such a history behind the seal. What's going on? How did the Jiang clan obtain the heritage of the Soul Oracle? Why would it serve the master of the Seal of Souls? Weren't the Soul Oracles eradicated by the Master Teacher Pavilion for betraying mankind? Zhang Xian was bewildered. He simply could not make sense of the situation. As one of the 3 premier clans, the Master Teacher Pavilion was bound to keep a close eye on the Jiang clan. They should be able to discern that the Jiang clan had inherited the heritage of the Soul Oracles. After all, being skillful at soul arts and being a Soul Oracle were 2 different things. So, why would the Master Teacher Pavilion still allow the existence of the Jiang clan? Jiang Fangyu hesitated for a moment before saying, "This matter concerns the most crucial secret of the Jiang clan. It isn't convenient for us to speak of it here, so I'd like to invite Zhang Shi to follow us into the main hall, to follow up on the conversation." Even though the Guardian formation did prevent outsiders from eavesdropping on their conversation, this matter had great implications and required the utmost confidentiality, so it was best to take as many precautions as possible. Zhang Xian nodded. "This way, please." Jiang Fangyu heaved a sigh of relief. Zhang Xian nodded in response. Since he still had control over the Jiang clan's Guardian formation, he was not worried that they would pull anything on him. Following behind Jiang Fangyu, they soon arrived in a grand hall. After Zhang Xian sat down on the main seat, Jiang Fangyu and the other elders swiftly took their seats by the side. They swiftly activated the barrier in the hall to isolate it completely from the world. After which, Jiang Fangyu turned his gaze over and said, "Zhang Shi, I heard that you once taught a direct disciple named Lu Chong. He has made great advancements as a soul oracle, reaching the level of great sage. May I ask if that's true?" "There's indeed such a matter." Zhang Xian nodded. In order to save him back then, Lu Chong had gotten into a huge fight against the 9-star master teachers from the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. Even though the matter had eventually been resolved, news had still spread far and wide. Thus, it was not surprising for Jiang Fangyu to be aware of the matter. "If that's the case, would it be right to say that you are a soul oracle as well, Zhang Shi?" Jiang Fangyu asked. "You can say so," Zhang Xian replied candidly. "Then there's no mistake." Seeing that Zhang Xian had admitted to it, the crowd heaved a sigh of relief. With an agitated look in his eyes, Jiang Fangyu continued his questioning. "May I know where you acquired the Soul Oracle heritage from? Could you have by any chance met other Soul Oracles?" "My heritage originates from a soul who has coincidentally survived through the years. I'm afraid that I haven't met any Soul Oracles before." Zhang Xian shook his head. In truth, Mo Hunshin could not be considered as a true Soul Oracle anymore. In precise terms, He was simply a fragmented soul possessing a consciousness. And other than Mo Hunxing and Lu Chong, he had not met any other soul oracles before. You have never met any soul oracles before? Jiang Fengyu asked with a hint of dejection in his voice. That's right, Zhang Xian replied with a doubtful edge in his voice. Aren't soul oracles' existences shunned by the world? I believe that their heritage should have already been eradicated from the master-teacher continent, right? Shunned. Hearing those words, Jiang Fengyu fell silent. A moment later, he shook his head bitterly and said, It seems like you are unaware of the truth. The truth. I know that it might be hard for you to believe it, but the truth is that the soul oracles never betrayed mankind. Jiang Fengyu said earnestly. They didn't betray mankind? Zhang Xian was perplexed to hear those words. This betrayal of the soul oracles was an incident that had been recorded in detail by the Master-Teacher Pavilion. There was no one on the Master-Teacher continent who was unaware of their treachery. Yet Jiang Fengyu was actually denying it? Jiang Fengyu sighed deeply before beginning on his story. The otherworldly demonic tribe was simply too strong. Back then, even under the leadership of Kong Shi and his 72 direct disciples, the forces of mankind were still hardly a match for the otherworldly demons. In fact, there was a point in time when an otherworldly demon emperor successfully trapped Kong Shi in Chengkai. Having lost Kong Shi, mankind found itself driven into a corner. Zhang Xian nodded in response to those words. He recalled hearing this matter from Vicious before. The war was simply too disadvantageous toward mankind. The otherworldly demonic tribe knew us like the back of their hand, but our knowledge of them was terribly limited. For one, we were completely helpless against their Jinqi of slaughter. Even if a human cultivator was equally powerful to an otherworldly demon, the human cultivator would swiftly lose their rationality upon coming into contact with the overwhelming killing intent from the Jinqi of slaughter, thus making them easy prey for the otherworldly demon. Jiang Fengyu continued. Zhang Xian fell into deep thought. This was something that he could relate to. When he first encountered an otherworldly demon during the Master-Teacher tournament in Myriad Kingdom City, the same had almost happened to him. If not for his Heaven's Path Jinqi, he might have succumbed there and then. The Jinqi of slaughter affected one's soul directly. Even master-teachers would find themselves unable to stand properly in its face, let alone ordinary cultivators. In order to salvage the situation, Kong Shi made the decision to have cultivators specializing in soul cultivation infiltrate the otherworldly demonic tribe and uncover the secrets behind their soul. At this point, Jiang Fengyu's face suddenly darkened a little. Despite the dangers, the soul oracles took up the mission. However, in order to win the trust of the otherworldly demons, the soul oracles had to make a complete breakaway from the Master-Teacher Pavilion. The result of that is what you see in the records of the Master-Teacher Pavilion. Deemed to be evil as a result of their malevolent practices and treachery, the soul oracles were massacred by the Master-Teacher Pavilion, and their heritage was completely destroyed. This, Zhang Xian's body jolted upon hearing those words. If what Jiang Fengyu had said was true, the soul oracles had really made a huge sacrifice for mankind. They should have been the heroes of mankind, but they had been scorned by the very people that they had saved for tens of thousands of years. As if having read Zhang Xian's mind, Jiang Fengyu continued. Back in that era, mankind had suffered a life worse than livestock under the tyranny of the otherworldly demon. They didn't even have control over their life and death. There was not a single man whose hopes and dreams weren't to drive them away and grasp control over his life back. The soul oracles viewed their sacrifice as necessary for the greater good, and they had no qualms doing so. In order to put up a convincing act before the otherworldly demons, the Master-Teacher Pavilion mobilized a huge number of master-teachers to encircle the soul oracles. In a single night, the entire occupation fell into ruin. The leader of the Soul Oracle Guild was then captured by the Master-Teacher Pavilion headquarters, and he committed suicide shortly after. The leader of the Soul Oracle Guild committed suicide? Zhang Xian questioned in bewilderment. If the leader of the Soul Oracle Guild had committed suicide, how did the Soul Oracles manage to infiltrate the otherworldly demonic tribe? The suicide was just a front. It looked as if he had committed suicide, but his soul had actually survived the ordeal. He entrusted his heritage to our founder before seeking refuge with the otherworldly demonic tribe. Jiang Fangyu sighed deeply. Having witnessed the complete destruction of the entire lineage of soul oracles, the powerful otherworldly demon expert, who had sealed Kong Shi, didn't doubt the intentions of the guild leader at all. Over time, the guild leader successfully uncovered the secret behind the Jinshi of slaughter and found a way to deliver the intelligence back to the master-teacher pavilion. He also designed a scheme to assassinate that powerful otherworldly demon expert. On top of that, he even designed inherently flawed soul cultivation techniques in accordance to the unique traits of the otherworldly demonic tribe. His ambition wasn't just to weaken an otherworldly demon or two, but the entire otherworldly demonic tribe. However, in order to do so, he knew that he had to convince as many otherworldly demons as possible to practice his soul cultivation technique. And it went without saying that the otherworldly demons wouldn't be willing to practice a flawed soul cultivation technique. As such, he designed the soul cultivation technique in a manner such that the flaws wouldn't be apparent to the practitioners. In the short run, practicing his soul cultivation technique wouldn't cause any trouble, and it would strengthen one's soul. However, if one continued practicing it, one's Jinshi of slaughter would gradually weaken, eventually resulting in an overall diminishment of one's fighting prowess. Flawed soul cultivation technique? Zhang Xian's body jolted as realization dawned upon him. Back then, when he entered the subterranean gallery beneath the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy, he had managed to kill the Golden Leaf King and the Green Leaf King and acquired their possessions. There had been plenty of soul cultivation technique manuals in their storage rings, but to his astonishment, he had found that those techniques were riddled with flaws. Back then, he had thought that it was weird how the soul cultivation techniques cultivated by the otherworldly demons were so mediocre, especially since they had the soul oracles on their side. However, if Jiang Fangyu's account on the soul oracles was true, everything made perfect sense. The mediocre soul cultivation techniques of the otherworldly demonic tribe were an intentional action by the guild leader, and the aim was to weaken their forte, to willingly sacrifice themselves and bear a vile reputation, just so that mankind had a shot at victory. The soul oracles were indeed the true unsung heroes of mankind. Zhang Xian clenched his fists tightly in agitation. At this moment, he suddenly recalled a matter. You mentioned a certain powerful expert of the otherworldly demonic tribe who had sealed Kong Shi earlier. Do you know what his name is? Chun Kai is a location, and this is a reference to how Confucius was trapped in the state of Chun and the state of Kai. That otherworldly demon expert had been able to corner Kong Shi to the point where the latter had no choice but to sacrifice an entire occupation in order to infiltrate the otherworldly demonic tribe as a spy. Given so, just how powerful could that otherworldly demon expert be? Would his prowess not have already exceeded that of an average otherworldly demon? Jiang Fangyu did not think that Zhang Xian would ask such a question. He pondered for a long while before replying slowly. The name of that otherworldly demon expert has already been lost in history. All we know is that he wielded indomitable strength and viewed life as nothing more than dirt. He was callous and capricious, and when he was in a bad mood, he had no qualms killing his own brethren. As such, both the otherworldly demonic tribe and mankind chose to address him as vicious. Vicious. Zhang Xian's body jolted. As expected, when he heard that Kong Shi had been trapped in Qinkai, he had already guessed as to who the culprit could be. Nevertheless, he was still shocked when he heard the answer. To think that the little vicious whom he had sealed in his Book of Heaven's Path would really be a formidable figure who had once cornered Kong Shi. The soul oracles even had to bear a vile reputation that remained with them to this date in order to kill him. It was no wonder Vicious had been so haughty the first time they met. It turned out that he did have the power to match his ego during his prime. Indeed, according to the news that the founder of our Jiang clan received from the leader of the Soul Oracle Guild, Kong Shi concocted a scheme in advance, after learning of Vicious' movements, and prepared an ambush for him. That fight was truly of epic proportions. Even the sky and the earth cracked before their incredible prowess. In the end, Vicious was completely destroyed by Kong Shi, such that not even his corpse remained in the world. Jiang Fengyu said. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian fell silent. It was indeed true that Vicious' body had been torn into innumerable fragments. Having collected so many of Vicious' scattered parts, he knew that better than anyone else. However, he had not thought that there would be such a heavy story behind it. There were simply too many sacrifices made in order to defeat Vicious once and for all. Regarding your account of the soul oracles, I think it's questionable whether even the Master Teacher Pavilion has any records of the matter or not. How can you be certain that the information on your hand hasn't been distorted over time? Zhang Xian asked. This matter would definitely have to be kept with the highest level of confidentiality, such that even the current Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters would not necessarily be aware of it. In other words, the Jiang clan would be the only ones in possession of this piece of information. In order to ensure that the success of the operation, the Jiang clan could not possibly have been so foolish as to create a physical copy to detail this piece of information. That would be as good as leaving a tip-off to the otherworldly demonic tribe. That was also probably the reason Zhang Xian had remained oblivious to this matter despite having gone through all of the books in the Jiang clan repository. So the chances were that the story was passed down through the Jiang clan verbally. However, could verbal information that had been passed over for tens of thousands of years really be trusted? There was bound to be some distortion over the years, resulting in certain aspects of the story being warped to suit their convenience. It's recorded in the Seal of Souls by Kong Shi personally, Jiang Fengyu replied. As long as the head of the Jiang clan places the clan head token against the Seal of Souls, he will receive a message through soul telepathy, informing him of the history of the soul oracles. It's through this system of inheritance that the members of our Jiang clan have been able to remember the sacrifices our predecessors made even after the passing of tens of thousands of years. I see. Zhang Xian nodded in realization. It seemed like Kong Shi had thought the matter through in advance and prepared a countermeasure so that the soul oracles would not have to go down in history ignominiously. The soul oracles had sacrificed themselves for mankind and the greater good. If their descendants had to live in shame of their ancestors, unaware of the truth, how tragic would the soul oracles be? However, if they recorded it on paper, there would be an inevitable risk of information getting out. If the otherworldly demons obtained the piece of information by some chance, the soul oracles who had successfully infiltrated the otherworldly demonic tribe would have all hell to pay for. This was indeed a huge dilemma. The sacrifice of the soul oracle could not be left unknown, but recording it could very well render their efforts futile. It was likely that Kong Shi had been placed in a quandary as well, so he could only choose to seal the information within the Seal of Souls and pass it down to the successors of the soul oracle. Hopefully, if there were to be a day where the otherworldly demonic tribe was completely eliminated, the soul oracles would finally be able to be cleansed of their disrepute. The Jiang clan is the descendant of the guild leader, and his blood flows through our veins. Thus, if anyone gains control of the Seal of Souls, they will be deemed to be our new guild leader, and all members of the Jiang clan will have to heed his commands unconditionally. Jiang Fengyu explained. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian fell into deep thought. At the same time, the many elders of the Jiang clan also lowered their heads contemplatively. They knew that the lineage of the Jiang clan had its roots from the soul oracles, but they were not too certain about the details. However, hearing Jiang Fengyu revealing everything in detail, the questions that they had harbored for many years were finally answered. To think that our ancestors were actually the soul oracles. Jiang Feifei was also astounded by what she had just heard. All along, she had prided herself as a master teacher, and she had carried deep abhorrence for the soul oracles. She had viewed them as a bunch of despicable people who carried no regard for the sanctity of life. However, after hearing the sacrifices that the soul oracles had made for mankind, she realized that her view of them might have been twisted all along. Without them, the otherworldly demonic tribe might have still been the dominant power on the Master Teacher continent, and mankind would still have been living a life worse than death. Zhang Shi has comprehended the soul quintessence and successfully retrieved the seal of souls. Be it from the perspective of a soul oracle or from the view of the Jiang clan, I believe that there's no doubt that no one is more qualified than him to become our clan head. Jiang Fangyu looked at the elders and declared his stance. Indeed, the fact that Zhang Shi was able to comprehend the time, spatial, and soul quintessences and achieve deeds that astounded even the Master Teacher Pavilion, he might just be able to cleanse the reputation of the soul oracles and allow them to stand beneath the light once more without facing the criticism of others. As the descendants of the soul oracles, this is what we have been waiting for all our life. Zhang Shi, please lead us to a brighter future. The elders rose up and clasped their fists respectfully. The Jiang clan was a blood lineage, but the Soul Oracle Guild was not. The fact that Zhang Xian had been able to grasp the Seal of Souls meant that he had been recognized as the rightful successor, as the head of the Soul Oracle Guild. He had also been the only person to successfully do so in the past tens of thousands of years. The Soul Oracles had been wronged for far too long. As their descendants, the members of the Jiang clan were unwilling to allow such a situation to continue any further. Even if their ancestors could not be praised for their heroic sacrifice, they did not deserve to suffer the condemnation of the entire world. Zhang Xian was silent for a moment before nodding slowly. I'm willing to become the head of the Jiang clan. But prior to that, clan head Jiang Fangyu, there's a doubt in my mind that I hope that you can answer. Please feel free to speak, Jiang Fangyu said. When I arrived in the Jiang clan just earlier today, I unintentionally saw you coming into contact with a scholarly young man. To be frank with you, I have met that scholarly young man before, and we have even fought on 2 occasions. If I'm not mistaken, he's very likely an otherworldly demon. Zhang Xian said before directing a piercing gaze at Jiang Fangyu. If everything that Jiang Fangyu had said was true, that the soul oracles had truly made such a huge sacrifice for mankind, it would not make sense for their descendants to betray mankind and undo everything the efforts of their ancestors. But, no matter how Zhang Xian looked at it, there was no way he could rationalize the apparent close relations between Jiang Fangyu and the scholarly young man. Scholarly young man? Jiang Fangyu was taken aback by the question. He pondered for a moment before asking, Are you referring to Yin Shui? Yin Shui? Zhang Xian frowned doubtfully. Yes, that's the name of the young man who has visited me earlier on. He isn't an otherworldly demon, but a descendant of ancient sage Zi Yuan from the 100 schools of philosophers. He has already reached the level of great sage for Dan's sempiternal realm consummation for his cultivation, making him a renowned figure even in the great frontistery of Confucianism. In fact, it was said that his name is on the heaven board, Jiang Fangyu explained. Ancient sage Zi Yuan. You are referring to Kang Shi's first direct disciple, ancient sage Zi Yuan? Zhang Xian's body jolted in astonishment. How could that be possible? I saw him colluding with the otherworldly demonic tribe with my own eyes. He was completely flabbergasted by what he was hearing. The first time that he had encountered the scholarly young man was at the White Creek Mountain, while they were fighting over the celestial amulet of legacy. A person among the group of 4 revealed his true form as an otherworldly demon. The second time they met was at the Harvest Valley City Seer Guild. At that time, not only were there a handful of great sage cultivators, he even found himself facing an ancient sage otherworldly demon. If the scholarly young man was truly a descendant of ancient sage Zi Yuan, why was he together with so many otherworldly demons? Furthermore, he had even aided the otherworldly demonic tribe in claiming the celestial amulet of legacy. He came to me requesting to establish connections with the soul oracles in the otherworldly demonic tribe. I am only a messenger, so I'm not too sure about his true intentions. After all, the 100 schools of philosophers has never been accountable to anyone for their actions, Jiang Fangyu said. He's trying to connect with the soul oracles in the otherworldly demonic tribe. Zhang Xian was getting a little confused. If that person was truly the descendant of ancient sage Zi Yuan, the Seer Guild's betrayal might not necessarily be a true betrayal. The same went for the Master Teacher Pavilion as well. But still, It didn't make much sense for an expert of the 100 schools of philosophers to have close ties with the otherworldly demonic tribe. After all, the 100 schools of philosophers were the direct descendants of Kong Shi's 72 direct disciples, so it was unthinkable for them to betray mankind. Taking a step back, even if they were to betray mankind, would the otherworldly demon be willing to trust them? Yet at the Harvest Valley City Seer Guild, they were residing peacefully with the otherworldly demon ancient sages. This was truly inconceivable. No matter how Zhang Xian thought about the matter, he was unable to make sense out of it. After questioning a little longer, he found that Jiang Fangyu truly knew nothing about the scholarly young man at all. His responsibility simply stopped at forming connections between the soul oracles and the 100 schools of philosophers. Our ancestors have made such great sacrifices for mankind. As their descendants, how could we sully their heroism? Furthermore, our Jiang clan is established upon the deaths of countless predecessors in the subterranean gallery over the past tens of thousands of years. We wouldn't be worthy of being called humans if we were to trample over their sacrifices and collude with the otherworldly demonic tribe. Upon realizing that Zhang Xian was suspecting them of treachery, Jiang Fangyu stood up, clasped his fist, and declared indignantly, "I apologize for my reckless behavior. I shouldn't have come to such a quick conclusion." Zhang Xian quickly rose to his feet and said, the soul oracles had done so much for mankind, yet he still doubted the loyalty of their descendants. It was not to say that he regretted his decision. He would still do it again if he had to. When the fate of mankind was at stake, it was always better to be safe than sorry. Nevertheless, since it was proven that he had made a mistake, it was only right for him to offer an earnest apology. Considering the reputation of the soul oracles in the world, it's no surprise that you would come to this conclusion. At this point, Jiang Fangyu suddenly widened his eyes in realization and asked, "Is that the reason why you emptied our treasure vault? You thought that we were in cahoots with the otherworldly demonic tribe?" "I'm afraid that's the case." Zhang Xian's face reddened in shame. Hearing those words, Jiang Fangyu sighed deeply and said, "Well, I can at least understand why you did what you did. If we were truly in collusion with the otherworldly demonic tribe, it would be foolish to uphold propriety with us. Propriety only came in when the world was at peace. If extinction was on the line, it would be foolish to remain polite and courteous with one's enemies. If there was truly a major human power in the world who had betrayed mankind for the otherworldly demonic tribe, robbing it of its resources would indeed be a fair move. I'll return your treasures back to your treasure vault later on," Zhang Xian replied hurriedly, having learned that the Jiang clan hadn't truly betrayed mankind and had even sacrificed a lot in order to protect it. No matter how thick-skinned Zhang Xian was, there was no way he could continue to brazenly claim their treasures for his own. On the other hand, seeing the look on Zhang Xian's face, Jiang Fangyu couldn't help but chuckle softly. Even though Zhang Xian's actions might have seemed a little unprincipled here, he had to admit that it was indeed an effective move. If the Jiang clan had truly betrayed mankind, this single move would have set them back by a great deal after having cleared things up. The remaining issues weren't too much trouble. Zhang Xian agreed to be the stand-in head of the Jiang clan for the time being, until the matter with the soul oracles had been reviewed and resolved. They mustn't be shown to have any ties with the Jiang clan. Otherwise, he would have surely recommended Lu Chong to the position instead. Considering that his student had found the ancient domain of the soul oracles and obtained their heritage, he was bound to become a leading figure of the occupation in the future. And speaking of the ancient domain of the soul oracles, the truth was that Zhang Xian had been harboring some doubts about its existence for a long time now. Considering that the Master-Teacher Pavilion had gone all out to eradicate the soul oracles, how could they possibly spare the latter's ancient domain? From the looks of it now, it seemed like Kong Shi helped to conceal its existence, so as to preserve the lineage and heritage of the soul oracles. Otherwise, with the prowess of the Master-Teacher Pavilion, it would have surely rooted it out and destroyed it a long time ago. By the time the inauguration ceremony concluded, it was already late at night. Zhang Xian quickly returned all of the treasures back to the treasure vault, except for a couple of items, which harnessed concentrated spiritual energy. After which, he called Jiang Feifei over and handed a book over to her. Recorded in here is my comprehension of the soul quintessence. As long as you cultivate in accordance with it, you should be able to comprehend it very quickly. You don't need to waste your time and effort at the Jiang clan's jade hieroglyph anymore, he said. Your comprehension of the soul quintessence? Jiang Feifei flipped the manual open uncertainly and swiftly flipped through it. By the time her hand flipped over the final page, her eyes were already widened in disbelief. Formless and intangible, it was much more difficult to cultivate the soul as compared to the physical body. Despite her aptitude toward soul arts, she still had no confidence that she would be able to comprehend the soul quintessence. In fact, she felt that even if she were to devote her entire life to it, the chances were that his efforts would be futile. However, the manual which the newly inaugurated clan head had just given her harnessed the very crux of soul cultivation. It wasn't needlessly complex, and it was structured in a logical manner, which first reinforced her fundamental understanding of what a soul was before moving on to the more complex aspects. With such a manual, she was confident that she would be able to comprehend the soul quintessence with a month of hard work. One must know that this was a feat which countless predecessors had tried but failed at. It's too valuable, Jiang Feifei exclaimed with trembling hands. She bit her lips tightly, seemingly resolving herself to some important decision, before raising her gaze to look at Zhang Xian. How can I ever repay you for this valuable manual? If you really wish to, I'll agree to an engagement with you. She still didn't like the young man before her, but she knew how important he was to the Jiang clan. It would be a blessing if the young man were to be bound to the Jiang clan, even if through a political marriage. At the very most, she would just have to sacrifice herself for this cause. Even though the young man said that there was someone whom he liked, in the worst-case scenario, she would just have to become his concubine. With her looks and standing, she believed that there was no reason for the young man to turn her down. Engagement? You are thinking too much. Even though the manual I have just imparted to you may seem easy to cultivate, there's a high chance your cultivation might go berserk if you were to practice it without my guidance. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian shook his head said, All right, I'll take you in as my student and guide you on your cultivation of the soul quintessence. Student? Jiang Feifei was taken aback. She thought that the reason why Zhang Xian was willing to hand such a precious manual to her was to force her to promise herself to him. Who could have thought that he was intending to take her as his student instead? The abrupt change in the train of thoughts left her a little dumbstruck. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and pay your respects. Even if you are just an ordinary student of the clan head, it would soon become your greatest pride. Jiang Fangyu exclaimed in agitation, jolting his daughter out of her daze. On top of being the head of the Zhang clan, the Luo clan, and the Sanctum of Sages, Zhang Xian's students were also the progeny of combat, the chief of the Glacier Plain Court, the leader of the Spirit Awakener Guild, the head of the Yuan clan. All in all, there was no mediocre student under his tutelage. If his daughter could become his student, even if just in name, it would be highly beneficial for her future. Perhaps she might even exceed him in time to time. Hearing her father's words, Jiang Feifei was stunned for a moment before nodding hurriedly. Yes, I understand. She was still holding on to the notion that Zhang Xian was the same young genius who had challenged her back at the Sanctum of Sages. She had failed to realize that over the span of less than a month, the young man had already reached the top of the master-teacher continent. Their standing was no longer the same as before. Putting aside all of his other identities, just on the account that he was Yang Shi Sr., it wouldn't be overboard even if Jiang Feifei were to call him great-grandfather. Jiang Feifei pays respect to teacher. Jiang Feifei knelt to the ground and greeted. Good. Come get up. Zhang Xian said with a smile. Earlier, when the young lady knelt down earlier, another golden page was formed within the library of Heaven's Path. Zhang Xian couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. The opponents he had to face was no longer limited to just saint cultivators. There was no doubt that he would be forced to battle against great sages, and even ancient sages in the near future. With a golden page in his inventory, his safety would at least be assured for the time being. Even if an ancient sage were to come after him now, he had the confidence that he would be able to subdue the other party with the golden page. Should I try to take in more students to gather more golden pages? Junior Yang's direct disciple Feng Zi isn't too bad either. Should I negotiate with Junior Yang to let him to me? Zhang Xian stroked his lower jaw as he pondered seriously over this issue. Given his current standing, just the title of Zhang Xian's student was enough to put one on a high pedestal. Thus, he had to take absolute care in choosing the students he took in. However, it was easier said than done to find good students. After all, not everyone was as outstanding, compassionate, righteous, and noble as him. In the end, Zhang Xian gave up on the idea. The sanctity of lineages had to be upheld. Since Feng Zi was Yang Shi's direct disciple, it would be inappropriate for him to take the young man in as his student. It seemed like he would have to search carefully for suitable individuals to take in as his student in the future. Considering how powerful the golden page was, it would be best for him to collect as many of it as possible. If he were to have a few hundred golden pages in the Library of Heaven's Path, he just might be able to defeat all of the ancient sages of the otherworldly demonic tribe single-handedly. Wait a moment. Kong Shi had 3,000 students, right? Could his reason for taking so many students be for this as well? Such a thought suddenly came to Zhang Xian's mind. Kong Shi only had 72 direct disciples, but he had over 3,000 normal students. Could it be possible that Kong Shi had the Library of Heaven's Path as well? And the reason why he took in so many students was to form as many golden pages as possible? Perhaps he might have even defeated Vicious by tossing golden pages at him, as if they were nothing, forcefully smashing him into meat paste. It was one thing to be defeated by a powerful expert, but to be defeated under a barrage of books, well, Vicious would have really suffered the most tragic defeat in history. I should look more into Kong Shi's affairs in the future, and see if he has a history of using books as his weapon. That should give me a clue as to whether he possesses the Library of Heaven's Path as well. In the end, this was only Zhang Xian's hypothesis at the moment. He needed to look further into it to know for sure. Putting those miscellaneous thoughts at the back of his mind, Zhang Xian focused his attention on deciphering the crux of the manual to Jiang Feifei and clarifying her doubts. By the time she had fully grasped the manual, it was already late at night. There's still some time before sunrise. Let me see if I can advance my soul cultivation, so the Aureate body realm. Knowing that it was still rather early, Zhang Xian exhaled deeply before standing up. The main reason why he came to the Jiang clan was to temper his soul, so that he could enter the otherworldly demon ancient sage corpse. Since he had already gathered the introspective convalescence realm, and the Aureate body realm Heaven's Path soul art, and he had the required cultivation resources on hand too, it would be good for him to make a breakthrough as soon as possible. Zhang Xian had Jiang Fengyu prepare a silent residence for him. He entered the cultivation chamber of the residence and sat down, after which, he drew his primordial spirit out from his body and began conditioning himself. Alright, I should start. Once he felt that his condition had reached its peak, he flicked his hand, and the spiritual energy-rich cultivation resources he had taken with permission from the Jiang clan's treasure vault earlier fell all over the ground, emanating an invigorating aura. Gugaga. Spiritual energy began surging into Zhang Xian's primordial spirit furiously. His aura was growing stronger at a visible pace, and within a tea's time, he had already reached the very peak of introspective convalescence realm, seemingly ready to make the final step forward at any moment. Thus he attempted to make a breakthrough. However, after a few attempts, he found that the bottleneck limiting him was a little too resilient. Zhang Xian analyzed with a frown. It might be because I have just achieved a breakthrough to introspective convalescence realm, and have yet to fully reinforce my soul cultivation yet. So my soul energy hasn't been fully condensed together yet. It had been less than half a day since he had reached introspective convalescence realm. So his soul energy hadn't fully settled down yet. He could attempt to force a breakthrough right now. But even if he were to succeed, this weaker foundation would surely come to haunt him in the future. The difficulty in advancing his cultivation had already gotten much harder ever since he reached Great Sage. He had no wish to further up the difficulty for himself. But still, will I really have to spend 2 to 3 days just to reinforce my soul cultivation? Zhang Xian rubbed his temple in distress. 2 to 3 days just to reinforce a cultivation realm. That was too slow, too slow. With the perilous circumstances around him, he had to raise his cultivation as soon as possible. Otherwise, even with a weapon as powerful as the Dragonbone Divine Spear, he would still be unable to exert his full strength. If there's something I could use to compress my soul energy together, I would be able to do it much faster. At this point in time, a spark flashed across Zhang Xian's mind as his eyes lit up in excitement. Right, the Seal of Souls. Without using the soul quintessence, the pressure the Seal of Souls could exert on his primordial spirit was immense, unbearable even. If he had to reinforce his soul cultivation alone, the rate which he would improve at was extremely slow. Without at least 3 days of effort, it would be difficult for him to fully reinforce the foundations for introspective convalescence realm. However, through using the pressure of the Seal of Souls, the process could be sped up significantly. Perhaps, he might even be able to finish the task by tonight. Go. With a flick of his hand, a seal materialized at the center of the room. As soon as it appeared, Zhang Xian immediately felt intense pressure crushing down on him. It felt as if his primordial spirit would be compressed infinitesimally under the pressure. Without driving the soul quintessence, he slowly approached the Seal of Souls with his primordial spirit. Tzz. As if approaching a scorching inferno, his primordial spirit began corroding under the immense pressure, seemingly on the verge of dissipation. Heaven's Path Soul Art. Harumphing coldly, he began driving the Heaven's Path Soul Art, and his dissipating primordial spirit slowly began to stabilize. This was similar to how he had used the pressure from the Dragonbone Divine Spear back then to temper his primordial spirit. The theory behind introspective convalescence realm for soul cultivation was similar to that for Jinqi cultivation. It focused on altering the basic underlying structure of a soul, so as to make it more resilient and powerful. With the pressure, his soul energy swiftly condensed together, making his primordial spirit more and more compact and powerful. A vague golden glow was beginning to emanate from the surface of his primordial spirit, a sign that he was steadily advancing toward a breakthrough to the Aurate Body realm. Is this the Aurate Body realm? Noticing the golden glow from his primordial spirit, Zhang Xian quickly inspected on the changes, and found that the parts of his soul shrouded in golden glow was much more resilient as compared to the others. Resilient was a word rarely used to describe intangible and formless souls. However, after being suffused with the golden glow, the resilience of his soul had astonishingly surpassed the level of Saint Pinnacle artifacts. Incredible, Zhang Xian remarked with an excited gleam in his eyes, as he continued to temper his primordial spirit, using the pressure from the Seal of Souls. 4 hours later, he finally came to a halt after a tough session of cultivation. His primordial spirit, which had become a little bloated after reaching introspective convalescence realm, had been fully compacted once more. At the same time, his disposition had undergone yet another change. From afar, he gave off a fleeting presence, similar to that of an unworldly deity. There was a fine line between great sage and sainthood. Traversing beyond this fine line meant a metamorphosis in one's level of existence. At this moment, Zhang Xian's primordial spirit was streaked with golden lines. If he were to drive his prowess to its maximum potential, a brilliant burst of golden light would shine from him, giving him an appearance reminiscent to that of a Buddha. Continue. Knowing that he had already reinforced his soul cultivation to its limits, he kept the Seal of Souls and began furiously absorbing spiritual energy into his primordial spirit once more. Similarly, his soul cultivation also began advancing for greater heights too. Hung long, there was a resounding buzz as the bottleneck limiting him and shredded apart. The golden lines streaking across his primordial spirit melted and shrouded his entire soul, giving off a golden glow that filled the entire room. Aurate Body realm reached. This is truly formidable. Sensing the changes in his primordial spirit, Zhang Xian trembled in excitement. At his current level, he could execute soul traverse freely without fear that his primordial spirit would be harmed as a result of squeezing through space. It seems like Lu Chong has reached Aurate Body Realm as well. Zhang Xian thought awkwardly. It had always bothered him how his students were able to advance their cultivation faster than him. While it could be partially credited to their unique constitutions and the resources they had at their disposal, it still left him feeling deeply frustrated. Hung long long. Just as Zhang Xian's mind was wandering, thunderous rumblings suddenly echoed outside the room. Heading outside, he saw storm clouds congregating above the Jiang clan. Overwhelming energy was swiftly gathering in the vicinity. Lightning tribulation? Achieving a breakthrough in one's soul cultivation to Aurate Body Realm would induce a lightning tribulation too? Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up in astonishment. However, in the next moment, the dragonbone divine spear wrapped around his waist suddenly exclaimed, "It isn't a lightning tribulation but a heavenly flame tribulation." Lightning tribulation served to temper one's primordial spirit, whereas heavenly flame tempers the Aurate body. Heavenly flame tribulation? Zhang Xian was startled for an instant before his face flushed in excitement. Wait a moment. Doesn't that mean that I would be able to resolve the innate fetal poison in advance? Kong Shi had once said that in order to resolve the innate fetal poison, it would have to be seared with heavenly flames. He thought that this would require him to advance his Jinshi cultivation to Great Sage, but who could have thought that he would end up drawing it in with his soul cultivation? If he could make use of it to temper his physical body, wouldn't he be able to resolve the threat, which had been worrying him over the past year once and for all? Will the heavenly flame tribulation sear my primordial spirit directly? Zhang Xian asked the dragonbone divine spear anxiously. The Saint Ascension ordeal was divided into the soul ordeal, body ordeal, and heart ordeal. Given that the heavenly flame tribulation was also the retribution that the heavens brought upon the cultivators, would it come in the same order as well? Hearing the question, the dragonbone divine spear pondered for a moment before replying. There are 3 phases to the heavenly flame tribulation, namely scorching soul tribulation, scorching spirit tribulation, and scorching heart tribulation. With your prowess, you should be able to survive the scorching soul tribulation. However, I'm afraid that the same cannot be said about the scorching spirit tribulation and scorching heart tribulation. Even the slightest carelessness can easily result in the dissipation of your existence. This is especially so for the final scorching heart tribulation. Inner demons will attempt to break down your will, and once the will extinguishes, everything else goes to rest as well. If your physical body had reached Great Sage 2 Dan Aurate Body Realm, together with the formidable prowess of your primordial spirit, you might still be able to withstand the inner demons. However, in your current state, I'm afraid that it'll be difficult for you to oppose the inner demons with your primordial spirit itself. Countless soul oracles in the ancient era had died as a result of the heavenly flame tribulation. It was only those who were blessed with great luck and the utmost talent who managed to survive this ordeal. The dragonbone divine spear had witnessed Zhang Xian refining his primordial spirit using the pressure exerted, so he was aware of the fact that the young man cultivated his soul as well. You mean to say that it would have been safer for me to challenge the heavenly flame tribulation if my Jinshi cultivation were to reach Aurate Body Realm as well? Hearing the words of the dragonbone divine spear, Zhang Xian asked. That's right. The body is much more formidable at fending off inner demons as compared to the soul. With the physical body bearing the brunt of the impact, and the soul assisting by the side, the chances of overcoming the heavenly flame tribulation would be much higher. If you were to challenge it with just your primordial spirit itself, honestly speaking, I don't personally know of anyone who has succeeded in doing so yet. The dragonbone divine spear flew out from Zhang Xian's waist and remarked worriedly. As a member of the dragon tribe, there was no way it could allow its master, which it had found with great difficulty, to be burned to cinders. Otherwise, if others were to learn of the matter, how embarrassing it would be for him. Even though it was just a pile of bones now, it didn't mean that it didn't have any pride. My physical body is indeed rather lacking at the moment. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian shook his head grimly. He hadn't acquired Kong Shi's superior breakthrough method to advance his Jinqi cultivation introspective convalescence realm, so he couldn't afford to force a breakthrough right now. Besides, even if he were to make a breakthrough in his Jinqi cultivation right now, he would still be an entire realm away from reaching Aureate Body Realm. He hadn't compiled the Aureate Body Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art yet, so it wouldn't solve the quandary he was in. Let it come then. I would like to see how formidable this heavenly flame tribulation is. The Dragonbone Divine Spear had once conquered the world by ancient sage Ranchio's side. Even though it had lost much of its powers and memories after being sealed, its eye of discernment and worldly knowledge were still far superior to most cultivators in the world. Since it had said that the heavenly flame tribulation would be a difficult foe to deal with, it was likely that would indeed be the case. However, as a practitioner of the Heaven's Path soul art, he was an invincible existence amongst soul oracles of his level. The heavenly flame tribulation might have been powerful, but he was confident that he would be able to overcome it. If there were soul oracles who could survive the heavenly flame tribulation, surely I would be able to do so too. Hung Long Long. In the midst of his conversation, the ominous clouds in the sky had finally finished congregating together. Similar to the storm clouds of the lightning tribulation, the clouds of the heavenly flame tribulation were also pitch black in color. However, if one were to take a closer look, one would notice that the clouds were dancing around, reminiscent of flames. Even from a distance away, one could already feeling scorching heat blistering one's skin, and the air was gradually becoming intolerably arid. Sla! A bundle of flames descended from the sky, aiming right for Zhang Xian's primordial spirit. Unlike the conventional crimson color, the bundle of flames were pitch black in color, almost similar to ink. If not for the suffocating heat it was emanating, one could have mistaken it as a botch of ink floating in the air. This is the heavenly flame? Even before the flame even arrived, dimension rifts were beginning to surface around the area. A powerful aura burst forth from the flame, imposing tremendous pressure on those standing beneath it. Zhang Xian felt his hair standing on end. He had encountered many flames over the past year, facing even the most formidable earth flames. However, he had never met such an eerie and oppressive flame before. Black as if ink, it was devoid of the slightest radiance. Yet the heat it exerted was so great that even space was unable to tolerate its existence. This was the heavenly flame? Was this really something that a soul oracle could withstand? Putting aside his primordial spirit, even his physical body, which he had already exceeded the resilience of an average Saint Pinnacle artifact, would melt upon contact with it. This isn't an ordinary heavenly flame, but the Empyrean heavenly flame. While Zhang Xian was overwhelmed by the frightening might commanded by the heavenly flame before him, the Dragonbone Divine Spear was also trembling in disbelief. Empyrean heavenly flame? What is that? Zhang Xian asked. Heavenly flame could be divided into various tiers too. The tier 3 heavenly flame has a fiery crimson color, and it would be summoned by most cultivators during their aureate body ordeal. This is also the weakest heavenly flame of all. The tier 2 heavenly flame takes on an ashen white color, and it's summoned only by the more formidable combat masters and master teachers. As for the tier 1 heavenly flame, it's azure in color, and only cultivators who have cultivated the best cultivation technique and possess the purest Jinqi would be able to summon it. So far, the only ones I have seen who were able to do that were ancient sage Ranchio and the other direct disciples of Kong Shi. Naturally, it goes without saying that the higher the heavenly flame's tier is, the more resilient the cultivator's aureate body would be after overcoming it. However, legend has it that there's an Empyrean heavenly flame which far surpasses the tier 1 heavenly flame. It's also known as the flame of heaven's path, and it's distinguished by its color of utmost darkness. As far as I know, Kong Shi is the only one who has summoned the flame of heaven's path and survived it. Furthermore, it was said to have only appeared when his Jinqi cultivation reached aureate body realm. How in the world did you manage to summon it here? Floating in the air in agitation, The eyes on the tip of the dragonbone divine spear flickered in horror. The Empyrean heavenly flame was a force of nature that destroyed all beings that stood in its path. Putting aside primordial spirits, even sempiternal realm cultivators would be burned to cinders in the face of its prowess. The young man had only achieved a breakthrough in his soul cultivation. So how did he end up summoning this fearsome heavenly flame here? It was difficult enough to overcome an ordinary heavenly flame, but the tribulation he had to face was actually that of the Empyrean heavenly flame. This was practically an impossible feat. Without a doubt, this was truly the worst card to draw at this moment. How would I know? Not expecting such an epic background to the heavenly flames he had summoned, Zhang Xian cried in aghast. It should have just been an ordinary heavenly flame tribulation. Was there really a need for the world to give him such a special treat? Zhang Xian felt deeply stifled inside, but he knew this wasn't the time to be fussing over it. Barely after gathering his strength, the black flame had already arrived before his primordial spirit and wrapped itself around it. Xiong xiong. As soon as the black flame came into contact with his primordial spirit immediately began burning up. Intense pain caused his face to distort awfully as his body began shuddering uncontrollably. He thought that it would be reminiscent to the lightning tribulation, where he would just have to endure it. However, the black flame was far more formidable than what he had expected. Even the slightest lapse in his concentration could cause his primordial spirit to be reduced to cinders, leaving nothing behind at all. Heaven's path soul art. Knowing that he had to make a move quickly, he gritted his teeth and gathered all of the energy he had to fend against the black flame. Wang Wang! A brilliant golden light gushed out and enveloped his primordial spirit. His transparent primordial spirit was suddenly cased in a golden afterglow, contrasting him to be a massive Buddha idol. Tzz. The prowess of the golden light was formidable, but the black flame was even more potent. Even before coming into contact with the golden light, it had already torn the surrounding space into shreds, seemingly ready to drag Zhang Xian into the midst of spatial turbulence. Seal! Without any hesitation, Zhang Xian tapped his finger ahead and executed the prowess of his spatial quintessence. Wang! The ripped space swiftly settled down once more. However, the might of the black flame was still as formidable as before. It swiftly corroded the golden light around Zhang Xian, dyeing it the color of black. At this rate, I'll really lose my life. Knowing that nothing would be left of him by the time the flames finished burning, Zhang Xian swiftly drove the soul quintessence. Gathering his power, he sent a burst of soul energy right into the ball of black flame around him. As the burst of soul energy collided with the black flame, it swiftly scattered into countless seeds of fire. However, before Zhang Xian could react, they had already gathered back together around him once more, continue their relentless assault on his primordial spirit. I'm able to forcefully split it apart, but the rate of regeneration of the black flame is simply too fast. Zhang Xian analyzed grimly. The attack with his soul quintessence was a trial attack to see if soul energy would work on the black flame. And to be honest, he didn't think that it would be effective. Unfortunately, the black flame reconverged together too quickly for the attack to make much of a difference. Right. I can use the time quintessence. A thought came to Zhang Xian's mind. No matter how quickly the black flame gathered together, it would require some time. As long as there was a lapse in time, he would be able to use the time quintessence against it. Break. Thus, he gathered his soul energy together to launch a powerful attack against the black flame. At the same time, he raised his finger and tapped the space in front of him lightly. Wang! Everything around him suddenly grew incredibly slow. The black flame slowly split into countless seeds of fire, and when they finally reached a certain distance away from him, they began to reconverge together in the middle. Scatter apart. Pushing his mind to its limits, Zhang Xian scattered his soul energy into each of the smaller seeds of fire and pushed them further away from one another. Barely after that was done, the time acceleration came to an end. As expected, the searing sensation he felt on his primordial spirit alleviated considerably. The power of the black flame does indeed reduce accordingly to scale. Zhang Xian thought as he heaved a sigh of relief. Even if they were of the same temperature, a blazing inferno was surely much more menacing force, as compared to just a couple sparks of fire. After continue the process several times, the black flame was finally split into 1/100th of its original size. Finally, the searing sensation had been reduced to a level which Zhang Xian's primordial spirit could tolerate. Time, space, and soul. These are the three quintessences that are the hardest to grasp. He's probably the only one in the world who has managed to master the three of them. Not expecting to see such a maneuver, the Dragonbone Divine Spear muttered in a daze beneath its breath. When it first saw the Empyrean heavenly flame descending from the heavens, it had no doubt that the young man would be reduced to cinders. Who could have thought that the young man would actually be able to find a feasible way to cope with the Empyrean heavenly flame through the skillful manipulation of those three powerful quintessences? However, this isn't the end of the Aureate body ordeal yet. Even if he's able to withstand the scorching soul tribulation, it would still be hard for him to overcome the scorching spirit tribulation and scorching heart tribulation. The Dragonbone Divine Spear shook its head, clearly unconfident in the young man's ability to withstand this trial. This is much better. Oblivious to the Dragonbone Divine Spear's worries, Zhang Xian's pounding heart finally calmed down after he found that the searing sensation on his primordial spirit had reduced to a level where he could cope with. He couldn't help but be thankful that he had mastered the spatial, time, and soul quintessences. Otherwise, he would really have been helpless before his current situation. Wang. A golden light shone brilliantly on the surface of his primordial spirit, keeping the many seeds of fire scattered equally on the outside. It had reduced the intensity of the flame, and the excruciating pain on his primordial spirit had diminished significantly too. As he continued driving his soul energy, the golden light grew brighter and brighter. Whenever the black seeds of fire began gathering once more, he would use his soul quintessence to tear them apart once more. Of course, it was an extremely tiring process, but fortunately, he was still able to cope with his powerful primordial spirit. Let me try using the heat of the heavenly flames to drive away the innate fetal poison. Seeing that he was finally out of danger for the time being, Zhang Xian knew that his chance had come. This was a rare opportunity for him to try driving out the innate fetal poison within him. As long as the innate fetal poison remained unresolved, the countdown on his lifespan wouldn't stop. Since he had finally found a chance to take a breather, it was a good timing for him to give it a try. Gathering his consciousness together, he threw out yet another burst of soul energy and divided a bean-sized seed of fire into sesame seed-sized ones. With his will, he slowly nudged the divided seed of fire toward the area where the innate fetal poison was. After which, he channeled the searing energy in from the seed of flame through the golden light and into his primordial spirit. A heart-wrenching pain immediately assaulted Zhang Xian, but he gritted his teeth and bore with it. If this was the pain he had to go through in order to resolve the innate fetal poison, he would just have to pull through it. However, a moment later, a deep frown appeared on his forehead. Why isn't it working? Kong Shi had once said that the heavenly flames could destroy the innate fetal poison, but to his astonishment, the searing energy from the seed of flame didn't seem to faze the innate fetal poison in the slightest. It was almost as if the innate fetal poison was impervious to it. Or, could it be that I'll have to pull the entire seed of flame right into my primordial spirit? Zhang Xian narrowed his eyes in horror. He had only channeled the searing energy from the black flame into his body previously. The black flame itself still remained guarded by the golden light. In a sense, it was similar to scratching one's leg through one's shoes. Could this be the reason why the innate fetal poison wasn't affected by it? But even if that was truly the case, it was true that his primordial spirit wasn't vulnerable to heat, unlike ordinary soul oracles. However, the black flame was no ordinary flame either. It was the Empyrean heavenly flame, the strongest heavenly flame of all. If he were to draw something that could even destroy a sempiternal realm expert into his primordial spirit, the chances would be that he would die before he could even eliminate the innate fetal poison. Forget it. At this rate, I'm bound for death anyway. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to rest easy as long as the innate fetal poison remained in his body, Zhang Xian didn't hesitate for long before making up his mind. Driving the heavens path soul art furiously, he continued to uphold the barrier of golden light around his primordial spirit to fend off the black flame. But at the same time, he opened a small gap to take in a seed of flame into his primordial spirit. Tz, as if fresh meat being pressed on top of burning charcoals, a deafening sizzling sound echoed in the air. This was a pain which Zhang Xian had never experienced before. It felt as if something was consuming him from within, leaving him scrunching around uncontrollably. Gradually, he could feel his consciousness seeping away from him. He hurriedly lowered his head and saw the areas which had come into direct contact with the seed of flame had already been reduced to a hole. At the same time, the parts of his primordial spirit around the hole was visibly much more sparse than before. At this rate, it was a matter of time before his primordial spirit dissipated for good. How am I supposed to do this? Zhang Xian's complexion warped in despair. He had only taken in a sesame seed-sized flame, and it had already inflicted grievous wounds upon his primordial spirit. If he were to absorb any more than that, he would really be reduced into a wisp of smoke. What should I do? He was still thinking that he would be able to overcome the heavenly flame easily and resolve the innate fetal poison while he was at it. However, it was as if the difficulty of the game had suddenly switched from easy mode to hell mode. I have no choice now. If a sesame-sized seed of flame wouldn't work out, I'll just have further divide till it's the size of the tip of a needle. Zhang Xian clenched his fists determinedly. The division of the black flame would reduce the intensity of the heat significantly. Since that was the case, he would just have to continue dividing it till it was at a level where his primordial spirit could endure. With such a thought in mind, Zhang Xian continued using his soul energy to further divide a seed of black flame. With his level of cultivation, even for a speck of dirt, he could still easily see the bumps on it through his spiritual perception. With his sharp control over his soul energy, he was able to accomplish this fine maneuver with ease. After 3 more divisions, the sesame-sized seed of flame was finally reduced to roughly the size of a needle tip. Even with such a small size, its imposing presence still gave one no room for doubt that it was capable of melting everything in the world. Absorb. Zhang Xian carefully guided one of these needle tip-sized seed of flame toward his primordial spirit and swiftly absorbed it in. Tz. Upon seeing the seed of fire, the innate fetal poison hurriedly retreated out of fear. However, it was unfortunate that the seed of fire was too small. Even though the innate fetal poison was frightful of it, it was incapable of dealing any substantial damage to the innate fetal poison. It's effective. I need to press on. With such a thought in mind, Zhang Xian absorbed another needle tip-sized seed of flame into his primordial spirit, thus forcing the innate fetal poison to retreat in terror once again. However, it didn't take long for the small seed of flame to extinguish too. My primordial spirit seems to have grown stronger? He realized that after absorbing 2 seeds of flame, the parts of his primordial spirit, where the seeds of flame had passed through, had grown much more resilient, as if they had been tempered 1,000 times over. At the same time, the golden glow emanating from those areas became much more brilliant too. The heavenly flame is indeed able to temper the aureate body. Zhang Xian's eyes lit up in excitement. Let me put aside the innate fetal poison for now. By the time I have tempered my entire primordial spirit, that fellow wouldn't be able to run even if he wanted to. Trembling in agitation, Zhang Xian was just about to crush the other seeds of flame into smaller portions in order to temper his entire primordial spirit, when the storage ring on his physical body suddenly shook. Following which, a figure materialized before him. He was Zhang Xian's clone. For some reason, this fellow had come out of the myriad ant-hive nest of his own accord. You can't even handle a heavenly flame properly? I can't bring myself to look on anymore. Shooting a disdainful look at Zhang Xian, the clone dashed right into the ominous clouds above. Hung long, as if in retaliation to the clone's aggressive actions, a bundle of heavenly flame descended from the heavens. However, the clone simply opened his mouth wide and swallowed it into his body. Zhang Xian's cheeks twitched. At this moment, Zhang Xian really felt like crying. If there was a hole he could dive into right now, he would do so without the slightest hesitation. He had to execute his time, spatial, and soul quintessences, and even so, he only managed to absorb 2 needle-tip-sized seed of flame so far. Furthermore, he even felt accomplished for being able to do so, but in the next moment, his clone appeared and swallowed an entire bundle of it whole. Furthermore, what the heck was with that fellow's expression? Was that fellow putting up an attitude with him? Was that fellow looking down on him? Screw you. You are only a clone. You get it? A clone. Which part of being a clone do you not understand? Can you open your eyes and realize that I'm the main body? There's an unbreachable gap in the standing between the main body and the clone. Realize that. Thinking of standing, Zhang Xian's complexion turned even more awful. He had challenged that fellow ever since he appeared. But it seemed like every fight had ended with a tragic loss on his part. In terms of standing, it did really seem like he had none of that before his clone. In the midst of wallowing in his sorrow, Zhang Xian suddenly raised his head and looked at his clone with unreadable eyes. For the first time, he felt that it wouldn't be so bad to see his clone being torched to death by those black flames. But contrary to his wish, what he saw was the other party burping leisurely. Delicious. Hula. After which, he dived right into the clouds and vanished. What? Watching the entire sight from start to end, the Dragonbone Divine Spear rattled in stupefaction. It was almost as if it had used up its entire lifetime worth of surprise today. The fact that its master had a clone wasn't really a big deal. Many experts had forged a clone out of themselves, and even Kong Shi had one as well. However, this was the first time he had seen one which was even cockier than its master. More importantly, that was the Empyrean Heavenly Flame, which even it was afraid of. Yet, not only was that fellow unfrightened by it, he even charged right into its midst. Was he not afraid of being burned down to cinders? In his moment of shock, he saw a pair of thighs poking out from the clouds, and a hand was scrubbing it leisurely. Palipala. A huge bundle of black flame was being spread equally over a body by a hand, and the sound of deafening explosions could be from above heard now and then. However, it didn't seem like the owner of the body was terrified at all. On the contrary, he was releasing pleasured moans instead, clearly enjoying the entire process. This. Is he still a human? The Dragonbone Divine Spear cowered in fear. To be honest, it was still a little apprehensive as to whether it had made the right choice submitting to Zhang Xian or not. After all, it was the personal weapon of the renowned ancient sage Ran Qiu, a legendary existence in history. However, after seeing the prowess Zhang Xian's clone, it suddenly felt its pride being utterly crushed. If even the clone wasn't being choosy with his master, what rights did it have to be choosy? With such a thought in mind, the Dragonbone Divine Spear turned its gaze toward Zhang Xian, and saw the latter trembling with a livid look on his face. Who's afraid of who? Humph. So, before the Dragonbone Divine Spear could process what was going on, it saw the primordial spirit of its master dashing right into the clouds, vanishing from sight within the blink of an eye. The Dragonbone Divine Spear was utterly frenzied. The reason why the clone of its master dared to charge into the clouds could be attributed to the superior material used to make it. But as for its master, what in the world was he planning to do charging in with just his primordial spirit? Was he tired of living? If he were to die, should I acknowledge his clone as my master instead? The Dragonbone Divine Spear pondered seriously as it began planning out its contingency plans. How could Zhang Xian possibly tolerate being looked at so contemptuously by his clone? Without any hesitation, he dashed right into the clouds. Boom! Before he knew it, countless bundles of flames were already gushing in his direction. My clone does have a much stronger body than mine, especially since he's made out of the 9 hearts lotus. However, in terms of souls, he's on the same footing as me. Since he's able to endure the black flame, I should be able to do it too. It might have been a spontaneous decision on his part to charge into the tribulation clouds, but it definitely wasn't a reckless one. He had already calculated the risks and decided that it was feasible before heading in. After obtaining the subsequent levels of the Heaven's Path soul art, it was automatically shared with his clone when he entered the myriad ant-hive nest. While he had been cultivating his soul, his clone had been doing the same as well. In other words, his clone had also achieved a breakthrough to Aurit body realm as well, just like him. Since his clone was able to withstand the black flame, why couldn't he do it too? He must have missed out some crucial information. Thus, he began to observe his clone not too far away. His clone was shrouded in the midst of black flames, doing backstroke at one moment, front crawl in the other, dog paddle in the next, and lying leisurely in the shape after. It was as if he was out for a holiday, enjoying himself. The black flame continued to burn around him. Soon, his body began to emanate golden light, and his primordial spirit also grew significantly more resilient than before. I get it. Zhang Xian's eyes widened as realization dawned upon him. The Dragonbone Divine Spear said that the Aurit body ordeal is divided into the Scorching Soul Tribulation, Scorching Spirit Tribulation, and Scorching Heart Tribulation. I always thought that the Scorching Soul Tribulation is the very first phase, and the others will appear subsequently. That could have been true for ordinary heavenly flame tribulations, but for the Empyrean heavenly flame, all three appear at once. The heat of the black flame is indeed formidable to the point that it's nearly unbearable, but it hasn't reached the level where it's completely intolerable to me yet. After all, I have cultivated my soul with the Heaven's Path soul art, and my primordial spirit has been tempered by many lightning tribulations. In terms of resilience, my primordial spirit already on par with most great sage artifacts. However, I was fearful of the black flame. I used all kinds of ways to avoid absorbing it. This must have been a test of my determination. My clone was able to charge unhesitantly in, because he had absolute confidence in his physical body, and without fear in his heart. The prowess of the black flame is significantly reduced. This is similar to how walking in the dark could be a frightful experience to those who hold fear in their hearts. They would constantly check on their surroundings, fearing that someone would do them harm. However, if one were to tread forward with an open mind, the night would no longer be as terrifying of an entity to one anymore. As these thoughts flashed across Zhang Xian's mind, he opened his primordial spirit wide in the face of the incoming bundles of black flame. At the same time, he also dissipated the golden light around his primordial spirit, leaving himself completely vulnerable to the black flames. It was as if he had already given up on himself. TZ. The flames began to sear his primordial spirit. Yet, due to his calmer state of mind, the black flame wasn't as excruciating as before. Instead, under the tempering of the flames, his primordial spirit was swiftly being tempered. It's indeed as I have expected. Seeing that it was effective, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. The heavenly flame was a mystical force of nature. It didn't just sear one's body, but one's spirit and state of mind as well. The more afraid he was of the black flame, the greater its prowess would be. That was because its target wasn't just his primordial spirit, but his mind and consciousness. Fear made one's mind vulnerable, making it easy to plant thoughts and delusions into one. And for cultivators of their level, thoughts were no longer mere thoughts anymore. Thus, when he abandoned his fear and embraced the black flame, the prowess of the black flame diminished instead. Nevertheless, despite the diminished prowess of the black flame, he still felt stabbing pain assault his primordial spirit, leaving him feeling as if it would be torn apart at any moment. I should focus on tempering my primordial spirit for the time being. Despite the pain, Zhang Xian opened his primordial spirit wide and frenziedly absorbed the flames from the surroundings. Boom! The flames entering his primordial spirit swam around it relentlessly, tempering it with the amazing heat it was emanating. His primordial spirit gradually turned completely golden in color, and the light it emanated was growing brighter and brighter. It was almost as if he was turning into a living Buddha. Let me see if I can eradicate the innate fetal poison now. Upon feeling that his primordial spirit had gotten used to the temperature of the black flame, Zhang Xian began concentrating the black flame toward the innate fetal poison. Gugaga. As if having encountered something terrifying, the innate fetal poison retreated fearfully. Zhang Xian's eyes lit up in response, and continued driving the black flame toward the innate fetal poison cornering it. Jijiji! With an alarmed shriek, the innate fetal poison finally reached its limits and dashed out of his primordial spirit. It escaped in the form of black smoke before vanishing completely from sight. The innate fetal poison had already gained its own consciousness, or else there was no way it could possibly escape from the onslaught of the heaven's path Jinqi. Finally, seeing that the innate fetal poison had finally escaped, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. The innate fetal poison had been a time bomb to him ever since he discovered its existence. He had lived his life in fear that he would die at any moment, and it had been his greatest motivation to continue cultivating as well. But today, he was finally free of this burden. After the innate fetal poison escaped, Zhang Xian made use of the black flames to temper his primordial spirit for a while longer before the dark clouds gradually dispersed. With this, he had successfully survived the heavenly flame tribulation. After overcoming the widely feared Great Sage Tu Dan Oriate body ordeal, Zhang Xian's primordial spirit had turned completely golden. Even a snap of his fingers created a metallic reverberation. If one did not know that it was a primordial spirit in advance, one would surely have thought that it was another normal body. After tempering my physical body with the heavenly flame, my primordial spirit is starting to take a form reminiscent of a physical body. It's no wonder Lu Chong is able to stand his ground even against those 9-star master teachers. Zhang Xian thought in agitation. Primordial spirits could change their forms according to the individual's will. If one did not want to be seen, even with a shiny golden exterior, a primordial spirit could still become invisible to the naked eye. If one wanted to be noticed, a primordial spirit could become as tough as a weapon, such that even experts of the same caliber would not be able to tell that it was actually a soul. It was no wonder soul oracles were viewed in deference in the ancient era. Even if just a small handful of them were able to clear the aureate body ordeal, those that succeeded indubitably wielded far greater prowess compared to ordinary cultivators. More importantly, the lifespan of soul oracles far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. Even if a cultivator nourished their flesh with their jinqi and altered their cells after reaching the introspective convalescence realm, they would still only be able to live for 1,500 years before finally meeting their end. However, soul oracles were different. They could easily live up to 3,000 years and even more. However, there's a fatal flaw to soul oracles too, and that's the 5 soul declines. There were many advantages to being a soul oracle, but equally great were the disadvantages. The greatest hurdle for the soul oracles was the 5 soul declines. Fortunately, the Heaven's Path soul art that Zhang Xian cultivated had made him impervious to this problem, so he did not have to worry about it. While he was still in awe over his improvements, he turned to look at his clone and saw that his body was golden. At the same time, his soul was also fully tempered. A powerful aura drifted off from his body, hinting at the frightening prowess he possessed. Aureate body realm consummation? Zhang Xian's lips twitched. He had ignited Kong Shi's blood droplet and utilized the prowess of a sempiternal realm consummation expert before. As such, even though he had never cultivated the realms himself, he still had a rough idea as to what the indicators for the various realms were. His clone was golden all over, such that even his pupils had taken on a golden color. Without a doubt, he had already cultivated the aureate body to perfection. To think that he would actually be able to advance his cultivation so quickly, Zhang Xian clutched his aching heart tightly. His clone sure knew how to traumatize him. He had thought that he had been improving fairly quickly, but this fellow turned out to be even faster than him. You should return to the myriad anthive nest for the time being. Zhang Xian instructed his clone to return and reinforce his cultivation. On the other hand, he descended from the sky and returned to the ground. You actually overcame the tribulation of the Empyrean heavenly flame. The dragonbone divine spear shuddered uncontrollably as it spoke. It had thought that its master would surely be reduced to ash facing such a powerful heavenly flame tribulation. But who would have thought that he would actually be able to overcome it so quickly? Was this still a feat a human was capable of? Yeah. Paying no heed to the Dragonbone Divine Spear's astonishment, Zhang Xian chuckled softly in response. He was just about to return to his body when he narrowed his eyes in astonishment. What's going on? His physical body sitting on the ground had its face turned dark, and black smoke was rising from its head. It was trembling non-stop, as if being put through some kind of excruciating pain. Some kind of black smoke escaped from the dark clouds earlier and dived into your body. I thought that it was the remnants of your primordial spirit, so I didn't stop it. The Dragonbone Divine Spear said awkwardly. On the other hand, black lines streaked across Zhang Xian's face. Do I look dead to you? Just because you are a skeleton doesn't mean that you should judge everyone by your standards. Besides, how in the world does a dissipated primordial spirit return to its body? Knowing that it was pointless to waste his breath with this sack of bones, Zhang Xian quickly dived his primordial spirit back into his body. Shortly after he opened his eyes once more, his face twitched in horror. He nearly exploded on the spot. The innate fetal poison that he had just driven out of his primordial spirit was currently resting lazily within his physical body. When he swept his primordial spirit across it, it even greeted him leisurely, as if meeting an old friend. He had thought that he had managed to clear the innate fetal poison for good. But who would have thought that it would slip out from his primordial spirit, just to return to his physical body? Did it think that it was simply moving homes? To slip from his body into his soul, and now from his soul back into his body. Do I look like someone to be trifled with? With an awful look on his face, Zhang Xian channeled his Heaven's Path Shenqi right toward the innate fetal poison. Die! It was out of fear for the Heaven's Path Shenqi that it had been forced to slip into his soul from his physical body. Since it dared to return to his body, he would just have to crush it. Hung long long. In a short instant, the Heaven's Path Shenqi collided with the innate fetal poison, forcefully pushing it back. However, the next instant, the innate fetal poison dived right into the surge of Heaven's Path Shenqi. Ho! It began swimming leisurely within the Heaven's Path Shenqi, just like his clone did in the midst of the black flames earlier. Zhang Xian was taken aback. The innate fetal poison should have been extremely fearful of the Heaven's Path Shenqi. Its arrival should have scared it into hiding. So how could it be swimming within it? Zhang Xian's heartbeat skipped a beat. Could it be that it has upgraded after experiencing the heavenly flame tribulation, such that it's no longer afraid of the Heaven's Path Shenqi anymore? The innate fetal poison had fled in the face of the black flames, but it had still been seared for quite a while before it managed to get away. It could not be that the short moment of searing had put it through a metamorphosis, such that it did not fear even the Heaven's Path Shenqi anymore. As a poison master, he knew that there were quite a few poisons in the world that could be upgraded with time. If that was truly the case, he would be in great trouble. It was due to the suppression of his Heaven's Path Shenqi that it did not dare wreak havoc in the past. Without anything to suppress it now, if it started wreaking havoc right now, or even blew up entirely, he would be doomed. Zhang Xian quickly tried a few more times, but it seemed like his Zhenqi was really no longer effective against the innate fetal poison. Let me see if I can suppress it using my primordial spirit. He began driving his primordial spirit toward the innate fetal poison, in the hope that it would be able to subdue it. In face of the approaching soul, the innate fetal poison swiftly retreated in fear. Oh, it must be because my primordial spirit has been tempered by the heavenly flames, and thus still contains remnants of it. So the innate fetal poison is still rather fearful of my soul. Earlier, the Empyrean heavenly flame had tempered his primordial spirit. Similar to how absorbing the energy in lightning tribulations would suffuse his primordial spirit with lightning, his primordial spirit was now infused with the might of the Empyrean heavenly flame as well. Due to that, his soul was able to induce fear in the innate fetal poison. Just that. He needed to harmonize his soul together with his physical body. He could not possibly constantly use his soul to suppress the innate fetal poison. Let me see if I can drive it out of my body. Zhang Xian gritted his teeth and began to corner the innate fetal poison. A moment later, A look of consternation surfaced. Crap, it stuck. It was true that he was able to alter the size of his primordial spirit after comprehending the spatial quintessence of sealing, but there was still a limit to the extent that he could do so. In face of the pursuit of his primordial spirit, the innate fetal poison swiftly slipped into the thinnest meridian within his body, such that even his primordial spirit was unable to squeeze in. If he squeezed in, his meridians could explode, and there would be severe consequences. As soon as his primordial spirit retreated, the innate fetal poison slipped out of the tiny meridian and danced gleefully in triumph. Unable to stand the innate fetal poison's arrogance, Zhang Xian immediately sent his primordial spirit back in, but the innate fetal poison simply slipped back into the meridian to hide. The process repeated itself several times. It was as if the innate fetal poison was provoking him. I am out. I am in. I am out again. I am in again. Ha ha ha. Try to catch me if you can. You'd better not mess around. Otherwise, even at the risk of destroying my physical body, I'll crush you to death. Zhang Xian harumphed coldly as he fused his primordial spirit back with his physical body. He used his Heaven's Path Zhenqi to seal the meridian in order to prevent that fellow from messing around before rubbing his glabella in frustration. This is really the worst. It looks like I'll have to raise my Zhenqi cultivation as soon as possible. Judging from how arrogant the innate fetal poison was, there was no saying when it would act up. He had thought that he would be able to kill it through the heavenly flame tribulation summoned by his soul. But who could have thought that he would only end up deepening the trouble he was in? He really had to raise his Zhenqi cultivation as soon as possible, so as to draw in a heavenly flame tribulation for his body as well. This way, with the combined prowess of both his soul and his body, the innate fetal poison would surely be eradicated once and for all. All right, the matter with the Jiang clan has been resolved, so I should head back and resolve the conflict between the Luo clan and the Zhang clan soon. Afterward, I should head to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. He would have to pay the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters a visit and find Kong Shi's superior breakthrough method in order to advance his Zhenqi cultivation. Otherwise, who knew how long it would take for him to make a breakthrough? But before I return to the Zhang clan, I should get to forging the otherworldly demon ancient sage corpse first. With his primordial spirit reaching the aureate body realm, his prowess had been enhanced many-fold. With his current strength, he should be able to forge the corpse into a soulless metal humanoid and put it to use. With such a thought in mind, he excitedly dived into the myriad anthive nest, and after finding an empty clearing, he flicked his wrist. Pung! The corpse fell onto the ground, creating a huge depression around it. Zhang Xian drew his primordial spirit out from his glabella and approached the corpse. Tizzy. The overwhelming pressure emanated by the corpse assaulted his primordial spirit, making it difficult for him to even advance a single step. Wang. His primordial spirit emanated a brilliant golden glow, and the pressure immediately alleviated considerably. He began making his way toward the corpse. He successfully dived into the corpse. Huge! As soon as Zhang Xian entered the corpse, he found himself within a vast room that there was no end to. His enormous primordial spirit seemed to be nothing more than a toy there, not even worth a mention. In comparison to this, his physical body seemed like a straw cottage before a royal palace. He took a seat and began using the method to forge soulless metal humanoids to slowly refine the body, harmonizing it together with his primordial spirit. Some time later, he stood up once more. I have already successfully forged a soulless metal humanoid. All right, let's see if I can fight with it. Zhang Xian thought with gleaming eyes. Typically speaking, soulless metal humanoid should have been made out of living beings, so as to ensure greater compatibility with one's soul. However, through the alterations that he had made with the Library of Heaven's Path, he was still barely able to forge one out of the ancient sage corpse as well. Nevertheless, the soulless metal humanoid's compatibility with souls would still be slightly lower, resulting in a lower precision and control. Jai. Using his full strength, Zhang Xian slowly controlled the ancient sage corpse to rise to its feet, raise its legs, and slowly take a few steps forward. After conducting a few simple basic movements, Zhang Xian's face twitched speechlessly. The soulless metal humanoid was simply too demanding on his soul energy. Despite taking only 3 steps, a great half of the soul energy of his aureate body realm primordial spirit was already depleted. At this rate, putting aside battling, it was questionable whether he could even launch a fist or not. I guess I'll have to give it a try to know. Gritting his teeth, he gathered his remaining soul energy, and the massive ancient sage corpse clenched its fist and thrust it forward. Voila! The space in the myriad anthive nest immediately shook intensely, causing a deafening ripping sound to echo in the air. It was as if someone had torn the fabric of the world, revealing pitch-black cracks beneath. Incredible! Seeing how the folded space that he had reinforced time and time again had nearly been destroyed by a single punch, Zhang Xian could not help but fall into a daze. While maneuvering the ancient sage corpse was extremely taxing on his soul energy, there was no doubt that the prowess that it wielded was tremendous. After all the effort that Zhang Xian had put into reinforcing the myriad anthive nest, even with the ignition of Kong Shi's blood droplet and the Dragonbone divine spear in hand, it would be difficult for him to tear this folded space apart. Yet, a simple punch from the ancient sage had nearly undone all of his hard work. This effectively meant that no matter how powerful a cultivator was, as long as he had not traversed the boundary to become an ancient sage yet, he would still be reduced to dust under a single punch from an ancient sage. There was truly a huge leap in prowess between great sage and ancient sage. With this soulless metal humanoid, his safety would be guaranteed, as long as he did not encounter any ancient sages. Even if he did encounter an ancient sage, he still had another golden page with him, following which, he would have yet another ancient sage corpse for him to forge a soulless metal humanoid out of. With this, what do I have to fear? Zhang Xian burst into hearty laughter. He drew his primordial spirit out of the soulless metal humanoid and absorbed several herbs to replenish his soul energy. After that, he re-entered the ancient sage corpse, placed his arms on his hips, and bellowed provocatively, "Clone, get your ass out here." His clone was in the midst of reinforcing his cultivation when he heard the bellow and flew out. "Come, let me test this on you." Without any regards to his clone's response, Zhang Xian snickered sinisterly and threw a punch right over. On the other hand, his clone did not expect that the main body would have already gained control over this ancient sage corpse and shuddered in fright. He realized that it would be too late for him to dodge, so he quickly protected himself with a punch of his own. Pung. So, the clone was sent flying into the distance before vanishing completely from sight. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Xian laughed heartily. All along, he had suffered greatly during the duels with his clone. This was his long-awaited comeback, and it left him feeling deeply exhilarated. The next time my clone dares brag before me, I'll feed him a punch from my soulless metal humanoid. As exhilarating teaching his clone a lesson was, he nearly depleted all of his soul energy after executing a single punch. Thus, he quickly drew his primordial spirit out of the ancient sage corpse and back into his body. Just as he was about to retrieve some items to replenish his soul energy, he saw his clone dashing back with an infuriated look on his face. "How dare you punch me? Are you tired of living?" On the verge of exploding from rage, the clone threw a fist at Zhang Xian without the slightest hesitation. Upon seeing this, Zhang Xian's face warped in horror. "What? It's not me. The ancient sage corpse is the one who hit you." "Alright, fine. I admit that it's me. But at least wait till I recover and return back to the corpse first." "Corpse your head." How could the clone possibly wait for Zhang Xian to recover and return to the corpse? Pung 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 pung. 10 minutes later, a swollen-faced Zhang Xian lay on the floor with tears streaming down his face. He had a desolate look on his face, reminiscent of someone who had been ravaged all over. What the heck was this? It was already a horrible day for him, with the innate fetal poison sneaking back into his physical body and acting all gleefully before him. On top of that, he still had to be pummeled by his clone. All of a sudden, he felt like his life was extremely bleak. He felt like a candle in the midst of a furious gale, constantly on the verge of being extinguished. Anyway, he left the myriad ant-hive nest and returned to the room with his back slumped miserably. Driving his heaven's path Shinshi, he swiftly recovered from his injuries before walking out of the room. It was not as if this was the first day knowing that his clone was an abusive subordinate, prone to resorting to violence at any moment. At the very most, he would just have to stay out of the other party's way in the future. It was already afternoon outside. After settling some administrative matters with Jiang Fangyu, Zhang Xian took out the Dragonbone Divine Spear, opened a dimension rift, and left the Jiang clan. Before long, he was already back at the Zhang clan. It had been an entire day since he left the Zhang clan. As soon as he returned back to his personal residence, he quickly called Sun Chang over and asked, "What's the current situation?" Before leaving, he had instructed Sun Chang to pay close attention to the movement of the Zhang clan and the Luo clan. A day might not have been long, but it was not a short amount of time either. Surely the two clans would not suddenly come to blows with one another in his absence, would they? The situation between the two clans is still relatively calm. As the head of the Luo clan isn't back yet, those from the Luo clan are still lying low for the time being. Sun Chang quickly explained. The motive behind the Luo clan's grand march to the Zhang clan was so as to return the humiliation that they had suffered. However, they could not do it alone given the limits of their abilities. Thus, they could only bank on their powerful clan head to redress their grievances. As such, till their clan head finally returned, they would not dare make a move recklessly. That's a relief. Seeing that nothing major had happened yet, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. He had Sun Chang head off, and after a moment of contemplation, he began warping his appearance once more. He really had to say that the disguise amulet that Luo Ruoxin had given him was truly a handy tool. He could activate it whenever he wanted to, and that was how he had managed to disguise himself as Jiang Fangyu and fooled all of the elders. Under the effects of the disguise amulet, his appearance, soul aura, bloodline, and even cultivation realm would appear to be identical in the eyes of the outsiders. Of course, if a battle broke out, the difference would immediately have become apparent. After all, the disguise amulet was only a disguising tool in the end. Since the Luo clan had been waiting for the arrival of their clan head, it would not be polite to keep them waiting for too long. However, as for the fashion which their clan head would arrive in, that was something worth pondering about. In any case, he was ready to give the Luo clan a huge surprise. An air of vexation floated in the guest rooms of the Zhang clan. "Say, where did our clan head go? Why isn't he back yet?" First Elder Luo Qingchen broke the heavy silence in the room. "Who knows? Our clan head seems to be a really carefree person, going wherever he wants as he pleases. Hi, we are supposed to be challenging the Zhang clan to re-establish the honor of our Luo clan. But somehow, it looks as if we are sponging off the Zhang clan instead. How frustrating. It's the same for me too. Whenever I walk around the area, I would see the members of the Zhang clan directing skeptical looks at me. Honestly, I don't even know I should deal with that anymore." Two elders of the Luo clan spoke up in exasperation. "Have you not heard of the recent news? Nangong Yuanfeng and Tantai Jinqing of the 100 Schools of Philosophers came to challenge the Zhang clan. But they ended up being defeated by a student whom Zhang Xian simply offered some pointers on the spot. Could our clan head have fled in fear after hearing that news?" Luo Ganzhen rubbed his glabella. They had marched here with an imposing momentum built up from the defeat of the 100 Schools of Philosophers. They felt that victory was already in their pockets, so they intentionally made a huge fuss out of this matter. Yet, as soon as they arrived, they heard that Nangong Yuanfeng and the others had visited the Zhang clan too, and were forced to retreat in defeat. To make things worse, the one who had made a move wasn't Zhang Xian. It was Zhang Xian's student from the side family, whom he had barely offered a couple of pointers to. Upon learning of the news, those of the Luo clan couldn't help but feel a little unsettled. If even a student taught by Zhang Xian was so powerful, they couldn't begin to imagine just how powerful the person in question was. At this point, They couldn't help but recall the huge commotion that had happened in the Empire Alliance. Back then, even Sword Saint Xing had fallen in defeat to Zhang Xian. Would their clan head really be able to defeat that monster of a person? As such thoughts weighed down their minds, the atmosphere grew even gloomier. Actually, I'm feeling really conflicted right now. On one hand, I really wish our clan head would appear as soon as possible. On the other hand, I don't know if it's a good idea for our clan head to come. The moment he's here, the duel would definitely have to go on. It's one thing if he wins, but if he were to lose, the Luo clan's dignity would be utterly crushed. An elder said. They had marched imposingly to the Zhang clan, effectively letting the entire world know that they would be challenging the Zhang clan to a duel. If they were to be forced in defeat, the Luo clan would really become a laughingstock for the world. Actually, I'm thinking the same too. A couple of elders voiced their agreement. But it would be even more embarrassing to us if he doesn't appear at all, another voice exclaimed anxiously. The crowd fell in silence once more. Indeed, it was embarrassing to be defeated, but it would be even more so if their challenger didn't appear from the start to the end. They had come here to find trouble with the Zhang clan, but they ended up finding themselves being cornered instead. With the current state of affairs, they didn't know what they should do anymore. Luo Ganzhen knew that the concerns raised by the elders were legitimate, but he didn't have any solutions for them either. Thus, he could only shake his head helplessly and turn to Luo Qingqian. Forget it, let's not think too much into it. Shall we send a message to our clan head to urge him to return? I have been sending messages to him all this while, but he hasn't been replying. First Elder Luo Qingqian shook his head bitterly. It might be because he's in seclusion. It hasn't been too long since he has become our clan head, so he might not be too accustomed to the role yet. In any case, I don't think that he's the type to flee in the face of danger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stepped up against the 100 schools of philosophers for us back then. Luo Ganzhen reassured the elders around. Just as he was about to continue speaking, an old man suddenly barged into the room. Deputy clan head, what's wrong? Recognizing the old man who had just entered, Luo Ganzhen frowned. The other party was the 16th elder of the Luo clan, Luo Qingyuan. For an elder to be running around so anxiously in another clan, something major must have happened. Our clan head. He has arrived. Elder Qingyuan reported anxiously. Our clan head is here? Where is he? Startled, Luo Ganzhen asked as he hurriedly got to his feet. At the same time, delighted looks also surfaced on the faces of the other elders. They quickly turned their gazes toward the doorway, but there wasn't a figure in sight. As soon as he returned to the Zhang clan, he headed straight to Zhang Xian's residence. I think he's intending on challenging the head of the Zhang clan privately, Elder Qingyuan explained in a fluster. He has already gone to challenge Zhang Xian? Why didn't you inform us? Everyone was stunned by the revelation. The reason why they had come here was to battle it out with the head of the Zhang clan. Yet they were actually unaware that their clan head had gone ahead to challenge the other party privately? Our clan head went to confront for the head of the Zhang clan secretly. We only found out about the matter a while ago too, Elder Qingyuan explained. Quick, bring us over. Hearing that the clan head had already gone to challenge Zhang Xian, Luo Ganzhen and the others couldn't bring themselves to remain seated anymore. With Luo Qingyuan taking the lead, it didn't take long for the crowd to arrive before a vast residence. This residence had a powerful formation erected around it, preventing any energies within from leaking out. In a sense, it could be said to be an isolated world in itself. At the very center of the residence, there was a dueling ring with two figures standing on opposite ends of one another. Fearsome auras were emanating from the two parties. They were the head of the Luo clan and the head of the Zhang clan respectively, Luo Tianya and Zhang Xian. Our clan head must have his own reason for not informing us about this, so let's just observe silently by the side. Make sure that you don't give yourself away, alright? Luo Ganzhen sent a telepathic message to the crowd, and they swiftly hid by a remote corner. Regardless of the underlying motive their clan head had for not informing them about the duel, it was apparent that he didn't want them to know the outcome of the duel. However, this worked out fine as well. At the very least, it wouldn't become an embarrassment for the Luo clan if it were to end in a loss on their part. Who? The two figures on the dueling platform finally moved. Luo Tianya flicked his palm, and the surrounding space was immediately sealed up. Selah. Everything within the sealed space came to an absolute halt. As if trapped within a still painting, the young man on the opposite end was unable to move at all. Seeing how their clan head had used the spatial quintessence of sealing right from the start, the faces of the crowd flushed crimson in agitation. It seemed like their clan head also knew that his opponent would be formidable, so he had decided to go all out from the start. However, their agitation didn't last for too long. A light chuckle sounded from the other end of the field, and the young man who should have been sealed in place nudged forward a little. Hula! The surrounding space abruptly reverted back to normal. At the same time, Zhang Xian stepped forward lightly, and as thought teleportation, he appeared right before Luo Tianya in the next instant, and threw a punch over. Seeing the means that Zhang Xian had executed, Luo Ganjin's body stiffened as horror surfaced in his eyes. This is the spatial quintessence of sealing too? He might not have comprehended the spatial quintessence of sealing, but he could tell that the nature of Zhang Xian's means was similar to that of their clan head. In other words, they were both spatial quintessence of sealing. A member of the Zhang clan actually executed the Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing? What in the world was going on here? Of course, none of the Luo clan's elders had an answer to Luo Ganjin's question. Meanwhile, on the dueling ring, Luo Tianya seemed to realize that he was in a precarious position, so he swiftly struggled free of the sealed space around him and retaliated with a fist of his own. Pung! The two punches collided with one another, but it was Luo Tianya whose face paled and was sent flying into the seal erected around the dueling ring. Clearly, he had been overpowered by Zhang Xian. He's actually this powerful? The crowd from the Luo clan was rendered speechless. They thought that they would be able to see their clan head destroying Zhang Xian. But who could have thought that their clan head would actually lose in a direct encounter? So. Reluctant to admit his defeat, Luo Tianya got to his feet and charged forward. Thus, the two fighters collided with one another once more. However, it was as if Zhang Xian was able to read his moves in advance. After trading a few blows, Luo Tianya was suppressed to the point where he could hardly catch his breath. Under the incredible outpour of power, the dueling ring flickered with brilliant lights. The relentless shockwaves that rippled out from the collisions of the two fighters rattled the surrounding seal, to the point that it seemed as if it would collapse at any moment. They are truly formidable. The faces of the crowd from the Luo clan gradually turned pale as they watched the intense fight before them. There were a couple of them who had reached great sage, but they knew that it was likely that they would be defeated in a single blow if they were to face any of the two figures on the dueling ring. To be honest, the maneuvers executed by the two clan heads weren't complex at all, and their battle techniques were also relatively simple too. However, every move that they made was purposeful, or to use a more exact word, ingenious. Every action that they carried out had a deeper significance in the later stage of the battle, leaving the onlookers awestruck by their foresight. It was as if their eyes were able to peer into the future, allowing them to manipulate the flow of the battle to their advantage. This is a duel between top-notch geniuses? It's indeed not at a level where ordinary mortals like us can fathom. Who could have thought that the yellow dust of the descending swallow could be used in such a manner? It seems like I have been too focused on the form of the technique to see through its crux. Is it just me, or that Zhang sure seems to be really familiar with the battle techniques of our Luo clan? Wait a moment. You're right. How could this be? The more that they watched, the more shocked that they became. At this point, the initial excitement had already settled down, leaving nothing but a deep heaviness in their hearts. Our clan head isn't a match for Zhang Xian, Luo Ganzhen remarked with a helpless look on his face. You're right. It's obvious that Zhang Xian is giving some leeway to our clan head. Otherwise, he could have defeated our clan head within 20 moves. Luo Qingchen nodded. Shortly after Luo Qingchen said those words, The panting Luo Tianya suddenly declared with a bitter look on his face. I admit defeat. It seemed like he found it hard to accept this outcome too. Brother Luo, you need not take this matter to heart. In truth, there isn't a great disparity in our fighting prowess at all. Zhang Xian walked up to Luo Tianya without the slightest glee from his victory. Instead, with an earnest look on his face, he said, Why don't we consider it a draw instead? A loss is a loss. If I can't even admit that much, I might as well change my surname to Zhang. Luo Tianya replied with a dignified tone. That being said, I have to say that the reason behind my loss is due to my personal reasons. It doesn't show that our Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing is inferior to your Zhang clan's time quintessence of acceleration at all, but simply because I'm too weak to bring out its true prowess. Of course, Brother Luo, Zhang Xian replied earnestly. Space and time have always been considered as equal powers. It would be meaningless to rank one of them over the other. It's not my intention to put down the Luo clan either. To be honest, I'm extremely in awe of the Luo clan. In fact, the main reason why I was barely able to win against you is because my understanding of the Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing surpasses yours. What do you mean? Luo Tianya frowned doubtfully. I believe that Brother Luo can tell that I have used the spatial quintessence earlier too, Zhang Xian said. This? Luo Tianya was stunned for a moment before realization dawned on him. Indeed. Why are you able to utilize the strength of the Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing? The founder of the Luo clan did comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing, but the lineage of the spatial quintessence of sealing could be further traced up to ancient sage Qiu Wu. I happened to obtain ancient sage Qiu Wu's heritage by a stroke of luck, which is why I wield the power of the spatial quintessence of sealing as well. Zhang Xian said, Ancient sage Qiu Wu? Luo Tianya widened his eyes in disbelief. This is the ancient domain left behind by ancient sage Qiu Wu. With a flick of his wrist, a crystal ball materialized before Zhang Xian. It emanated a fleeting aura reminiscent of folded spaces. Placing his palm on the crystal ball, Luo Tianya's body trembled in agitation, and envy surfaced in the depths of his eyes. It's indeed an artifact left behind by ancient sage Qiu Wu. I must say that I'm truly in awe of Brother Zhang's luck. Haha, it's out of coincidence that I managed to acquire it too. The reason why very few in your Luo clan are able to comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing isn't due to lack of talent, but that the heritage passed down through the generations isn't complete. Zhang Xian explained with a light chuckle. From this Qiu Wu palace, I found the complete heavenly art of dimension unravel created by ancient sage Qiu Wu. I'll entrust it into the hands of Brother Luo today. I believe that only in your hands will its true worth shine. Looking at the crystal ball in his hand, Luo Tianya quickly shook his head in astonishment. How I can accept such a valuable artifact from you? There was no one in the master-teacher continent who didn't desire to obtain the heritage of the ancient sages. Yet the young man actually handed it to him just like that. This gift was simply too heavy for him to accept. At the same time, the hidden Luo Gan's hen and the elders of the Luo clan glanced at one another in bewilderment. It was true that the heritage of the Luo clan originated from ancient sage Qiu Wu. Thus, if they could acquire the completed version of the heavenly art of dimension unravel, they would be able to deepen their comprehension of spatial laws significantly. Even if they weren't able to comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing, their overall fighting prowess would soar by leaps and bounds. Just that there was supposed to be a grudge between the two of their clans. In fact, the purpose behind their visit was to trample on the Zhang clan. Yet, not only did the other party pay no heed to their pettiness, he even gifted them such a valuable gift. In an instant, the crowd suddenly felt deeply ashamed of themselves. Please don't be in a rush to turn me down, Brother Luo. Allow me to finish my piece first. Placing his hands behind his back, Zhang Xian's expression suddenly turned grim. I believe Brother Luo should have also received reports regarding the observation of the mirages of the Temple of Confucius at Xiufu. Based on that in itself, there's little doubt that the real Temple of Confucius would surface very soon. Luo Tianya nodded. The 100 schools of philosophers has already approached and challenged both of our clans. Their motive is very clear. They wish to obtain our celestial amulet of legacy. They might have failed this time around, but considering that Kong Shi's heritage is at stake, there's no way they would give up just like that. They would surely try something in the near future. Furthermore, our Zhang clan has found evidence that experts of the otherworldly demonic tribe have managed to sneak into the Master Teacher continent. In fact, I have received intelligence from the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters that the legendary otherworldly demon emperor is amongst us right now. Zhang Xian said grimly, mankind is in a very vulnerable position at the moment. Our survival is at stake. If we were to engage in infighting during such precarious times, it would be a calamity not just for both of our clans, but the entire human race. At a time like this, we can't be engaging in meaningless faction rivalry. We have to unite together as one and cooperate with one another to overcome this ordeal. Otherwise, the one who would have the last laugh would only be the otherworldly demonic tribe. Hearing those words, Luo Tianya fell silent. The reason why the three premier clans are able to stand strong even after tens of thousands of years is because of how we hesitate not to band together in times of need to fend against the greater enemy. I know that I have done your Luo clan wrong on the engagement ceremony, but it was definitely not my intention for things to turn out like this. Feelings simply can't be forced. Ruoxin and I have already sworn our futures together. If I were to marry Yusin when my heart isn't with her, it's only a matter of time before the marriage descends into misfortune. In the end, I would only be letting both her and the Luo clan down. I know that I have failed to settle the issue appropriately, and I do feel extremely guilt-ridden for the pain and suffering I have inflicted on Yusin and the Luo clan. So, please consider the heavenly art of Dimension Unravel and the Qiuwu Palace as tokens of my apology. I'll have to ask Brother Luo not to turn me down, or else this matter might continue to haunt me for life. Zhang Xian said. Brother Zhang is truly magnanimous. Since that's the case, I won't hold back either then. After a slight moment of hesitation, Luo Tianya took the crystal ball and kept it in his storage ring. Thinking about it, even though it's indeed that fellow's fault, he didn't do it intentionally either. If he had truly chosen to marry the little princess back then, I would have really doubted his character. If he could bring himself to abandon his lover, there's no reason why he couldn't abandon the little princess later on. Have we been overreacting to the matter? While our minds were still fixated on our own pride and reputation, he's already looking at the fate of the whole mankind from a much higher position than ours. He's truly a noble individual. The hidden crowd from the Luo clan fell silent as their faces reddened in shame. They had been too focused on the Luo clan that they weren't able to look at things from another perspective. If Zhang Xian were to be a heartless person, would he be able to bring the little princess happiness, even if he were to marry her? Unlikely. Thank you, Brother Luo. Zhang Xian bowed deeply in gratitude. I'll surely relay your intentions to the Luo clan and speak up on your behalf, Luo Tianya said. At this moment, he lowered his head contemplatively for a moment, seemingly making up an important decision, before he clasped his fist and said, Brother Zhang, there's something which I would like to request of you. Brother Luo, please feel free to speak. Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up in surprise. As long as it's something within my means, I'll surely try my best to help you. There's something which has been bothering me for a long time now, and I think it's about time for me to put an end to it. Regardless of whether I succeed or not, it's unlikely that I'll be able to return to the Luo clan afterward. Even though I have only become the head of the Luo clan a few days ago, I don't wish to see the Luo clan falling into decline in my absence. Luo Tianya said with a darkened look. It's unlikely that you'll be able to return to the Luo clan? Brother Luo, are you going to enter an ancient domain, or are you intending to exact vengeance? If you require my help, just give me the word and. Startled by those words, Zhang Xian hurriedly said, Brother Zhang, I appreciate your kind intentions, but this is my personal affair. I wish to settle it with my own hands. Even if death lies at the end of the path I seek, I'll still willingly tread down that path. Luo Tianya shook his head and replied determinedly, the matter which I would like to entrust Brother Zhang with isn't that. Zhang Xian frowned in confusion. Taking a deep breath, Luo Tianya flicked his wrist and took out a token. It was the Luo clan's clan head token. Brother Zhang, I hope that you can take my position as the head of the Luo clan. You want me to be the head of the Luo clan? Zhang Xian's body trembled in astonishment. He hurriedly waved his hands in a fluster and exclaimed, "How can I do that?" Our clan head wants to make Zhang Xian our next clan head? Is our clan head out of his mind? That won't do. I can't accept that. Luo Gan's hen and the others were shocked by Luo Tinya's words as well. They were impressed by Zhang Xian's magnanimity and were willing to forgive him for the affairs at the engagement ceremony. But that didn't mean that they could accept having him as their clan head. Brother Zhang, your prowess with the spatial quintessence of sealing is even more adept than mine. And more importantly, you have inherited the heritage of ancient sage Qiu Wu. Given that even ancient sage Qiu Wu has acknowledged and imparted his lineage to you, you can be considered as a peer to our founder. Naturally, you are more than qualified to become the head of our Luo clan. Luo Tianya said. But, Zhang Xian continued waving his hands frantically, seemingly very resistant to the notion. Brother Zhang, correct me if I am wrong. You have just become the head of the Jiang clan. Am I right? Luo Tianya suddenly interjected sharply. Yes, that's indeed the case. Zhang Xian nodded. He flicked his wrist, and a token materialized before him. It was the Jiang clan's clan head token. He's the head of the Jiang clan? Is this for real? This is ridiculous. Why would the Jiang clan allow an outsider like him to become their clan head? Luo Gan's hen and the others couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was as if this matter had come right out of a fantasy novel. They could hardly wrap their minds around what was going on. Since the Jiang clan is willing to accept you as their clan head, I believe that our Luo clan will be open enough to do the same as well. Furthermore, given the perilous times we are in, it's of utmost importance for the three premier clans to work closely with one another. I can't think of any better way to do so other than this. Luo Tianya said. He clasped his fist before continuing on. Brother Zhang, I'll have to implore you not to turn me down. I have heard how your lectures in the Jiang clan and the Zhang clan have helped many to achieve breakthroughs in their cultivation. If you were to become the head of the Luo clan, I'll have to ask you not to discriminate against our Luo clan and share your knowledge with our members generously too, so that our Luo clan will be able to better itself. Zhang Xian fell silent. The crowd from the Luo clan also fell silent as well. While they didn't have a good impression of Zhang Xian, there was no denying his ability in imparting knowledge to others. His aptitude as a teacher was far beyond their imagination. The only person they could think of who could possibly compete with him was only Kong Shi. This fact couldn't be more apparent just by looking at his direct disciples. None of his direct disciples had reached their 20s yet, but every single one of them had already become powerhouses on the master-teacher continent. Even the Luo clan would have to think twice before crossing any of them. If they could have such a formidable individual as their clan head, the fighting prowess of their clan members would surely improve tremendously. On the other hand, if they were to continue rejecting Zhang Xian, it would only be a matter of time before the Zhang clan and the Jiang clan pulled their distance away from the Luo clan. Before they knew it, the Luo clan would have been completely overshadowed by the other two powers. If Brother Zhang could accede to this request of mine, I would be able to leave with my mind at ease. Otherwise, I'll never rest easy not knowing what would become of the Luo clan in my absence. Luo Tianya bowed earnestly. He flicked his wrist, and the Luo clan's clan head token flew over to Zhang Xian. All right then. I'll help you look after the Luo clan in your absence. I'll lead the Luo clan in your stead until someone worthy emerges. After a moment of hesitation, Zhang Xian took the token and reassured Luo Tianya. Thank you, Brother Zhang. With this, my heart can finally rest easy. Farewell. After bidding his farewell, Luo Tianya turned around and left without any hesitation. In the blink of an eye, he had already vanished from everyone's sight. It's not that I'm greedy for power. But only with the 3 premier clans united will we have the strength to stand against the 100 schools of philosophers and the otherworldly demonic tribe. Without sufficient strength to tide through this calamity, mankind would be completely eradicated, becoming nothing more than the dust of history. Watching as Luo Tianya left, Zhang Xian shook his head and sighed deeply. With a complicated look on his face, he waved his hand and strolled back into his residence. Seeing that both Luo Tianya and Zhang Xian had left the vicinity, Luo Ganzhen and the others finally emerged from their hiding spot. Deputy Clan Head. Aside from Luo Tianya, Luo Ganzhen wielded the greatest say in the Luo clan. As such, the crowd instinctively turned their gazes to him to seek his view on the matter. Tianya is right. To survive this adversity, our Luo clan will require Zhang Xian's help. Luo Ganzhen said with a helpless sigh. But he's only a Saint Nine Dan cultivator. An elder protested. I don't deny that he's still weak at the moment, but he's the senior of the most respected Grand Elder of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, Yang Shi. Not only that, he's also the head of the Sanctum of Sages, the teacher of the Progeny of Combat, the head of the Poison Hall headquarters, the chief of the Glacier Plain Court, the head of the Yuan clan, and the leader of the Spirit Awakener Guild headquarters. All of those powers would rally together on his command. If we were to factor in the Zhang clan and the Jiang clan as well, it's no exaggeration to say that he's the most powerful man on the Master-Teacher continent at the moment. If we were to let this opportunity slip by our fingers, we might really fall into a spiral of decline, Luo Ganzhen said. As an individual, the Saint Nine Dan Zhang Xian was not of much significance to the Luo clan. However, it would be a different matter if one were to factor in his many identities as well. Even the Master-Teacher Pavilion might not possess as much rallying power as Zhang Xian did. In fact, if one were to take Yang Shi into account too, Zhang Xian's sphere of influence would encompass even the Master-Teacher Pavilion as well. Having such a powerful man as their clan head would be crucial to ensuring the Luo clan's survival in the impending crisis. Are we really going to acknowledge him as our clan head? Another elder asked with a bitter look on his face. What the heck was this? They had come to humiliate the Zhang clan. But not only did they fail in their aim, they were even on the verge of acknowledging their sworn enemy as their clan head. It was not as if they couldn't understand the rationale behind it, but this pill was simply too difficult for them to swallow. The more they thought about it, the more stifled they felt. Everything is for the sake of the clan. Knowing their thoughts, Luo Ganzhen heaved another helpless sigh and said, All right, let's return. Tianya is probably waiting for us back at our accommodations. Thus, the crowd quickly rushed back to the guest rooms. There, they saw Luo Tianya sitting within a room with a hesitant look on his face. Upon seeing that the crowd had returned, Luo Tianya hesitated for a moment before speaking up. Elders, clan head, you need not say anything. I think it's a wise move on your part to have Zhang Xian unite the 3 premier clans together. We are willing to heed your command. Luo Ganzhen clasped his fist and said. Luo Tianya's eyebrows raised up in astonishment upon hearing Luo Ganzhen's words. A moment later he shook his and said, Since you are already aware of the matter, I won't speak of it anymore. This is the Qiuwu Palace which Zhang Xian has given me. Take care of it well. It's very likely that I'll never return after I leave this time around. You must heed Zhang Shi's orders and make the Luo clan far stronger than what it ever was. After saying his piece, Luo Tianya didn't wait for the response from the crowd before opening a dimension rift and leaping into it, vanishing without a trace. Facing the departure of their clan head, the crowd from the Luo clan remained silent for a very long while. Has our son returned yet? In the main hall of the Zhang clan, Sword Saint Meng was pacing around a room restlessly with a tight frown on her forehead. The clan head has already returned. However, he went out again shortly afterward, and I'm afraid I'm not too sure where he went this time around. An elder replied, That lad. He should know that the Luo clan is here to trample over the Zhang clan's pride, but he still has the mood to be wandering around the place. Sword Saint Meng remarked with a frown. The Luo clan had created a huge fuss with their arrival. It was extremely clear to anyone watching the spectacle that the Luo clan had come with the intentions of humiliating the Zhang clan. Yet, as the head of the Zhang clan, Zhang Xian still had to mood to be roaming around at a crucial period like this. This was really unacceptable. Xian'er is a sharp-witted child. I believe that he has his motive for doing so. There's no doubt that we are at fault for this matter. So it's only right for Xian'er to avoid them. His presence would only remind them of the humiliation they had suffered and stoke the hostility between the two clans. Sword Saint Xing shook his head. It's one thing for him to avoid the members of the Luo clan, but it won't do for him to continue dragging this matter out like this. If I had a say in this matter, I would have Xian'er marry Luo Ruoxin and Luo Qiqi together, and there wouldn't be so much trouble now. Sword Saint Meng harumphed coldly. At this moment, an elder suddenly rushed into the main hall anxiously. Old clan head. Upon stepping into the room, the elder first did a bow before proceeding ahead with his report. The matter concerning the Luo clan has been resolved. Both Sword Saint Xing and Sword Saint Meng were stunned by what they had just heard. Sword Saint Xing hurriedly turned his gaze over and asked, "How was it resolved?" In their view, this was an extremely prickly matter to deal with. Until Zhang Xian had a duel with that Luo Tianya, it was unlikely that the Luo clan would back down on this matter. Yet, before anything could happen, the matter had already been resolved? With an incredulous look on his face, the elder reported that the members of the Luo clan acknowledged Zhang Xian as their clan head. They acknowledged Xian'er as their clan head? Sword Saint Xing and Sword Saint Meng glanced at one another before falling into a daze. Starv's Discord. https://discord. gg/athvex. The Luo clan had arrived imposingly with the burning resolve to humiliate Zhang Xian and the Zhang clan, but before anything could happen, they had already acknowledged him as the clan head. Was there a pit in the heads of those from the Luo clan? Otherwise, why would they do something as foolish as this? I don't know the details either, but I heard that. The elder suddenly halted at this point. He was not sure if the rumors were true, so he was not certain whether he should report the matter or not. Speak. What is it? Sword Saint Xing asked authoritatively. There are rumors that our clan head went to the Jiang clan yesterday. And shortly afterward, the Jiang clan conducted an inauguration ceremony and established him as their clan head. Sword Saint Xing. Sword Saint Meng. Can anyone tell me what in the world is going on here? The Jiang clan and the Luo clan has actually acknowledged someone from the Zhang clan as their clan head. Is there a pit in heads of those from the Jiang clan too? Could this be some kind of infectious disease among the upper echelons of the master-teacher continent? Maybe we should keep a lookout for it. The Xingming sword saints fell into a state of confusion. They could understand the words individually, but when those words were put together, it formed sentences that they simply could not comprehend. And the fact was that the Xingming sword saints were not the only ones in state of confusion. Everyone in the Zhang clan was flabbergasted upon hearing the news. Startled expressions could be seen on the faces of the members of the Zhang clan as the news swiftly made its way around. Our clan head sure is awesome. To actually become the head of the 3 premier clans. This was something completely unprecedented in history. It also did not take long for the news to make its way to the Luo clan, and everyone was dumbstruck to hear of the matter. Luo Xianqing was in the midst of cultivating the spatial quintessence of sealing when he heard the news. Putong. He collapsed to the ground, and his eyes rolled up as he blacked out. Can anyone tell me what in the freaking world just happened? Didn't the clan head and the elders head over there to exact vengeance? Is this what they meant by exacting vengeance? It's finally resolved. Oblivious to the uproar that he had just caused, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief and returned back to his room. As long as the matter concerning the Luo clan was not resolved, it would have remained a thorn by his side. Left with no choice, he could only summon his clone and put on an entire skit for the Luo clan. This gave rise to the show that Luo Ganshen and the others saw. His actions could not be said to be honorable, but given the current circumstances of the world, He did not have the luxury to be picky with his means. As long as he could resolve the conflict with the Luo clan, and have them willingly collaborate with the Zhang clan, and the Jiang clan for the crisis ahead, everything would be worth it. He had only gone out for an entire day, but he had managed to make massive gains. He cultivated the soul quintessence, advanced his soul cultivation to the aureate body realm, forged the ancient sage corpse into a soulless metal humanoid, collected another golden page, and most importantly of all, become the head of the other two premier clans. It had truly been a fruitful day. Since I'm free at the moment, I should advance my primordial spirit to aureate body realm consummation. Taking a deep breath, he activated the formation around the room to keep away any prying eyes before releasing his primordial spirit once more. After being tempered by the heavenly flame tribulation, his soul cultivation had successfully advanced to the aureate body realm. However, it was still some distance away from reaching consummation. Since he had some time, it would be good for him to quickly do so. Otherwise, the massive gap between him and his clone would only slowly drown him in depression. After all, how could the main body be weaker than the clone? How undignified was it for the master to be outdone by the clone? After taking out a couple of cultivation resources, Zhang Xian's primordial spirit began devouring spiritual energy furiously. For hours later, his entire primordial spirit was gleaming with a golden sheen, as if it was made out of pure gold. I have finally reached consummation stage. Zhang Xian's eyes lit up in excitement. It was a little exhausting, but he had finally done it after 4 hours of hard work. With my soul cultivation and my Jinqi cultivation, even if I encounter an intuitive impulse realm cultivator, I will be able to triumph over him with ease. With the Dragonbone Divine Spear in hand, I would stand a chance even against a sempiternal realm primary stage cultivator. Feeling the great power coursing through his body, Zhang Xian smiled in delight. Even though his primordial spirit was only at aureate body realm consummation, it had been tempered by the Saint Ascension ordeal, lightning tribulations, and the Empyrean heavenly flame. In terms of fighting prowess, it was already on par with intuitive impulse realm cultivators. With the Dragonbone Divine Spear in hand, he would be able to subdue even Sword Saint Xing in a direct confrontation. I'll be able to protect myself with such strength. As powerful as the golden page was, it was ultimately a consumable tool. It would disappear after it was used. The soulless metal humanoid that he had forged from the otherworldly demon ancient sage was formidable as well, but it was highly demanding on his soul energy, and his control over it was not as sharp as compared to moving his own body. In the end, there was nothing more reliable than his own strength. Zhang Xian. Just as Zhang Xian returned his primordial spirit to his body, he suddenly heard a voice outside. He quickly tore down the barrier and walked out of his room. Luo Ruoxin was seated on one of the benches by the courtyard. Upon seeing him, her eyebrows shot up in astonishment. You have made a breakthrough in your cultivation. It was just a day of absence, but there was a visible difference in Zhang Xian's aura. It felt much deeper than before, making it difficult for one to gauge the depth of his strength in a single glance. I guess so, Zhang Xian replied with a nod. It's good that you have made a breakthrough. I have to make a trip to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters to settle some matters, and I can bring you to the area where Kong Shi left behind his superior breakthrough method, Luo Ruoxin said. You are going to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters? Zhang Xian asked in surprise. I can see great energy coursing from your body, and it's on the verge of running amok. Without a doubt, it's about time for you to raise your cultivation. This way, even if something happens, you will have the strength to cope, and I'll. Luo Ruoxin paused for a brief moment before saying, also be able to rest assured. It's indeed about time for me to push for a breakthrough. Zhang Xian nodded. The innate fetal poison was simply too smug. He had to achieve a breakthrough as soon as possible and burn that fellow completely with the heavenly flame. Otherwise, if that fellow suddenly lost its rationality and attempted something, he would really be a goner. On top of that, if he achieved a breakthrough in his Jinqi cultivation to Great Sage, there would surely be a surge in his fighting prowess once more. Paired together with his aureate body realm primordial spirit, even without Kong Shi's blood droplet, he would be able to defeat any cultivator beneath ancient sage. In other words, even if he encountered the scholarly young man once more, he would be able to apprehend him and force him to spit out the whereabouts of Zhao Ye and the others. The only consolation for him right now was that Zhao Ye and the others were not in any major danger. As the heads of major powers, they were bound to have soul lanterns. If something had truly happened to them, the Glacier Plain Court, the Poison Hall, and the Yuan clan surely would have sent word over. Nevertheless, the close ties between the 100 schools of philosophers and the otherworldly demonic tribe left him feeling rather unnerved. He had to find out the reason behind this uncanny partnership as soon as possible, so as to determine whether the 100 schools of philosophers was an ally or an enemy. Let's head off then, Luo Ruoxin said with a chuckle. All right, Zhang Xian nodded. He quickly called Sun Chang over and delegated some matters to him before the both of them departed from the Zhang clan. Shortly after leaving the perimeter of the Zhang clan, he suddenly recalled that adolescent boy and asked, "Oh right, will Wu Chen be coming along?" Wu Chen had followed them to the Zhang clan, but it did not seem like he had seen him around over the past day. Of course, he had also been busy during this period of time, so he was not one to speak. He had some matters to attend to, so he left earlier. We are heading to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters to find Kong Shi's superior breakthrough method, not to pick a fight with anyone. There won't be any danger, so it won't matter whether he's around or not, Luo Ruoxin replied. You're right. Zhang Xian nodded before falling silent. He quickly went through a map that he had collected into the Library of Heaven's Path and located the whereabouts of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, following which he flicked his wrist, and the Dragonbone Divine Spear flew into his hand. Break! With a thrust of his spear, a dimension rift was torn open, and a passageway appeared before them. Zhang Xian took the lead, and Luo Ruoxin followed closely behind him. The next moment, the duo found themselves standing before a cluster of towering buildings that was reminiscent of the scale of a royal palace. The Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.